Ice has dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday tune-up. It's a match day Tuesday for Atlanta United. They are hosting Philadelphia Union. Quarterfinals of the CONCA Champions, the CONCACAF Champions League. The European variation of the Champions League is also back today. Semifinal action, Chelsea at Real Madrid. We've got the South American variant of a Champions League with the Copa Libertadores also in action today with a number of games across the continent. Copa Sudamericana is also in action, the equivalent of the Europa League, of the CONCACAF League. We got all the international action going on today, and we'll kind of touch on lots of different aspects of it. We'll, of course, take a bunch of Atlanta and Philadelphia questions. We'll get into that. We'll have Dylan Butler of MLSsoccer.com joining us at 10:30 to talk about Week 2 in MLS and look ahead to Week 3, also talk some Champions League. And then at 11 o'clock in our USL League 1 block, Stephen Short of USL HQ will be joining us to talk about the growth of League 1 and what's on the horizon going forward. News this morning, which is not a surprise. We've talked about it for a little while now. Bayern Munich cuts the check. RB Leipzig says goodbye to Julian Nagelsmann. He is now going to be the manager of Bayern Munich starting next season. Now, that's one domino of the coaching domino set that could affect a lot of other moves. Nagelsmann has been linked to Real Madrid in the past. He's been linked to Tottenham. He was their first choice, allegedly. So now what do they do? It also opens up the spot at RB Leipzig, and Jesse Marsch is at Red Bull Salzburg. Not a done deal, according to the sporting director at RB Leipzig, but he is the expected next manager up at Leipzig. Jesse Marsch, the American manager who was at New York Red Bulls. New York Red Bulls, RB Salzburg, RB Leipzig. Okay, yeah, it all makes sense. We'll get into all that. Bayern cut a large check to get Mr. Nagelsmann, and we'll talk about that too. But we'll take your questions throughout. So if you want to be part of the conversation, join in on the Twitch pitch in our chat section on Twitch, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere. You can also, you do all the slashes now? I thought you just did the slash on the Fanatis one.
All the slashes.
That's too many slashes.
I've upgraded.
It's too many
I've upgraded
slashes.
my slash game. It's for all of them.
Too many slashes. Or you can join us on Twitter at Soccer Down Here, or if you're John, twitter.com/Soccer Down Here. If you want to go that way, which will get you there too. Tons of stuff. Johannes, our resident Bayern fan, is happy this morning. Very happy with the Nagelsmann appointment. Not happy with the fee to get him. Doesn't look great in a pandemic to pay that much. Hopefully we have found the guy for the next 4 to 5 years. Yeah, hopefully. One thing that I thought was interesting as a cautionary tale, Max Merrill of DW had a breakdown on everything. People have reported this fee anywhere between 15 million euro and 30 million euro. I don't know where the number actually stood. But the closest thing to a precedent for this situation, you're going back to 2011. Young manager, 33 years old, same as Julian Nagelsmann, having a lot of success at a smaller club, and a large fee was paid out, 15 million euro, to bring him to a bigger club. Andre Villas-Boas, 15 million euro Chelsea paid to bring him in from Porto. He lasted 40 games and was sacked. Cost a total of 55 million euro in fees and wages. Where that struggled was a senior team, veteran team, young manager. They didn't want to hear him. They didn't want to hear it. Is that going to be a problem at Bayern? Now, I know Bayern has a different culture, and I think that's going to help Nagelsmann here a lot. He's also, it's not going to be what Villas-Boas had to deal with going from Portugal to England, him being Portuguese and going to England. Nagelsmann will have a smoother transition there. That's an absolute. But Nagelsmann at Hoffenheim and at Leipzig had young teams, inexperienced guys who were willing to listen, soak up everything he had to say, run through the walls for him, he's got some veterans at Bayern that he's going to have to win over. Manuel Neuer, Thomas Muller, Lewandowski, great players. But he's going to have to win them over and convince them. And we've talked about convincing as such a huge part of a manager's job, and it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot. You know, we zero in on the tactics, we zero in on philosophy. Are they scoring goals? Are they keeping goals out? Blah, 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 blah. You have to be able to convince your roster. It's easier when you come in and you've got a track record of success. Nagelsmann has success. Not Bayern-level success, but success. Are these veteran players who have been there, done that, won the medal, lifted the trophy, are they going to listen to him? Is he going to be able to convince them? I think the culture at Bayern will really help him, but that's the key, in my opinion, in him having success. And look, success at Bayern, I mean, they're going to win the Bundesliga. I think we can say that, and that's I hate that we have to say that. They should be able to walk to the Bundesliga title next year. That's just where it is. I mean, they went to their biggest competitor and just hired the manager for a whole lot of money. That's the reality in Germany. Bayern will want to play in a certain manner, and that's going to be measured. The quality of the performances will be measured. But also, can Nagelsmann do better in Europe? And we'll have to see if he can. That's the hardest thing for a young manager is to break through. You got to convince your veterans, but then you've got to win the big games. You've got to be ready to make the big decisions in those games. Can he do that? Be very interested to see what Bayern looks like in comparison under Hansi Flick and now starting next season under Julian Nagelsmann.
I think the numbers for Hansi Flick was a trophy for every 14 games that he managed. I think that was the number.
Yeah, I mean, he's outstanding. That might be Hansi calling right now to tell us where he's going. I think we already know. German national team, probably, so maybe. But that might be Hansi giving you a call. That's impressive. But the domestic trophies, are they surprises? No. They're not. The Champions League, incredibly impressive. Hansi, I think, did a great job. If that's what he wants to do is leave Bayern because he's not getting along with sporting director, he's not happy about the changes he's wanted to make, can't make them. If he could take the Germany job because it's fallen into his lap, that's a perfect move for him. Take it, run. He'll be great. He's had amazing success. You're not. That's what's weird about this, and I think has to be understood. So many times we talk about coaching changes where there's something broken. There's nothing broken. I mean, you got to reload. Does Nagelsmann bring more young players through? That's a safe expectation. I think it's something he's done very, very well. It's something that Bayern has not done very, very well. I believe, and Johannes and Bernd, if you're out there, correct me here, but I believe it's been pretty slim pickings since Louis van Gaal left in terms of bringing players through the Bayern Academy and playing significantly with the first team. Player here, player there, but in terms of a strategy, a philosophy, it just hasn't happened. Can Nagelsmann, and this is the hard thing about taking this job if you're Julian, it's not just match what Hansi Flick did. You've got to find ways to surpass it and be your own person. Yeah. And that's not easy when they've been as successful as they have been.
And, you take the domestic trophies out of the equation, and Bayern has that high expectation, and they haven't been able to win as many trophies in the European theater as the fans, I'm sure, would like. And so now that Hansi's gone, Nagelsmann's coming in, you just sit there and you go to one of your top rivals on the table, you take him, you bring him in, and you're just kind of taken from all the other guys. But I think that, as always, when it comes to a team of this stature, it's going to be measured by success, not domestically, but internationally. And can someone with his the lack of experience, and I mean that just in years. I don't mean that from your destinations, but from the limited time that he has been a manager and the success that he has had. Does that translate to the next level? And I think that that's the biggest question here with Nagelsmann, someone who is on the rise, but now you've got this gig that has been given to you. And can you really come to the table and take Bayern to that next stage as the young guy that a lot of folks would like to have? That, to me, is how he's measured. And it's going to be a tall order, I can guarantee it.
Well, what is that next stage in your mind? Because he's been pretty close, but what is it that measures success for him?
Well, I think that if you're measuring success, if you're a Bayern fan, it's like you're winning Champions League and you're doing it more than once. And this is, you can't stumble domestically at the same, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen. What I'm saying is that you have to maintain what you're doing domestically and at the same time continue to do things internationally in a European theater and do it consistently over time. I wonder, though, that if things aren't going at the pace that the front office wants, you're not winning, you're coming close, you're doing whatever, how much patience they're going to have with him if he's not winning Champions League. If it doesn't happen in that first year, how much patience does he get? That kind of a question is registering in my head as I'm talking this through. The instant demand is going to be tough here for Nagelsmann, and if it's not there instantly, how much patience does he get?
I don't see Bayern as a club that really lacks for patience in this. I think you're focusing just on results, and I think Bayern has honestly tried to accomplish more than that. That's why they hired Pep Guardiola when they did, coming off of what didn't look like a treble when they announced the hiring of Guardiola, but then turned into one under Jupp Heynckes. I think it's a situation where trophies are obviously important, don't get me wrong, but there is an idea, and I really do wonder with Nagelsmann coming, if part of the idea is looking at the realities of the financials. I know they paid a good amount to get him, and that does have an interesting look, as Johannes points out, during a pandemic. That's a large check to be cutting, but I wonder if part of the idea here is to develop more from within, not have to go spend because the money's not there to spend as much right now.
Right.
And I wonder if there's a little bit different idea of valuing homegrown talents a little bit more here, so you get a manager who probably suits that kind of idea. Very, very interesting. And Byrne brings up a good point, and this is something that I think will be not a battle for Nagelsmann, but it is a very interesting appointment because, look, he's a pretty flashy guy. And at Bayern, it's usually the badge. As Byrne says, the team's the star, not the coach. Pep was a different situation, but Pep was also a very intentional hire to start to, I think, really ground a philosophy into the club. Nagelsmann can take that philosophy that I'm sure has had roots planted in the academy and bring players through. Byrne says lower profile guys like Flick, like Heynckes, have done better. Good man manager, solid tactically. Nagelsmann's different tactically, and I think one of the things that jumped out to me from the quotes this morning, Bayern president Herbert Heiner said, Julian Nagelsmann stands for a new generation of trainers. They're looking at him as kind of ushering in a new way of being a manager, somewhat a new way of playing. So that's part of it, bringing young players through. I really do think that Bayern is looking to develop more and spend less in terms of bringing in transfers. They'd like to be in that situation. It's just a smart financial move. Nagelsmann's a guy who will do well with bringing young players through. Johannes says people think it's a risk to get a manager who hasn't won trophies yet. I see it as getting a manager who's hungry to prove himself and win those trophies. That may help the veteran players who make things feel not quite as stale. They can feed off the new manager energy and who wants to prove it. And it kind of goes back to Bird's idea about the team being the star the manager being secondary. Nagelsmann's a guy who's been out in front.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, you wear some of the suits that Julian Nagelsmann's wore. He wants to be out in front. He enjoys it.
Skinny jeans, loafers, no socks, the whole bit.
You really get hung up on the no socks thing, don't you?
As someone who tries to do that as much as possible, yes.
But I thought, okay, wait a minute. I thought you didn't like it, but you do it. So I'm confused.
Well, no, just he's styling. Don't get me wrong.
Okay. I thought you were mocking it. My bad. I was definitely confused.
No. I get that the young dudes do that these days. You want to sit there and have the tailored jacket, the tailored dress shirt, and in Nagelsmann's closet, there's colors and skinny jeans and loafers, and I don't know how you run in loafers more than anything when you're on the touchline. If you really need to make a point, that just has to hurt your Achilles more than anything else. That's my biggest thing. It's like, dude, running in loafers, that's a tall order, and if you can handle that while you're trying to navigate everything going on in front of you, good on you.
I'm not trying to be a jerk, Ricky Ricardo. I'm wondering what's going on here. I didn't start singing, all the young dudes. I'm not singing Mata Hoople and anything here. I mean, that's John. I got nothing.
Yeah. As the resident elder on the show, looking at how the young kids are dressing these days, I feel like I have to point this kind of stuff out.
All the young dudes.
Get out of my yard. Get out of my yard, wardrobe guy.
Man, Ricky trying to get me in trouble. I didn't even do anything. I do wonder because, Nagelsmann's a little different than Bayern managers in the past. So we'll see. I mean, I think even Pep adjusted a little bit and kind of fit the bill for what Bayern wanted in terms of their leader on the touchline. It's going to be an interesting watch. The element that I keep coming back to, though, is, are we going to see more young players come through? Is that going to be a focal point for Bayern? I think it could be. How long will it take? We'll see. I don't know where their academy is right now in terms of, do they have guys ready to go, or their players to come in and step in and play more? I know there's guys like Musiala who is close. Is he going to become a regular under Nagelsmann? Stuff like that. Mazzano, we don't know where Flick's going yet. It hasn't been announced, but all signs are pointing towards the German national team. They agreed to terminate his contract at the end of the year instead of standing in his way. The German Federation said they weren't going to pay for a manager who was under contract. It feels like Bayern might be doing the Federation a solid here. They also get who they want, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everything falls into place, and now RB Leipzig doesn't have a manager. And the idea that everybody has had is, okay, Jesse Marsch, done deal. Well, RB Leipzig sporting director Oliver Mintzlaff, he spoke today with Nagelsmann. They talked about the deal, and he didn't want to stand in Nagelsmann's way or anything like that. He said that on the next manager at Leipzig, they'll continue to define ambitious goals, get to the Champions League, et cetera, et cetera. They haven't made a lot of mistakes in their appointments in the past. He talks about the players and the staff who've developed and moved on and done well. He knows they have a plan to fill the gaps in the team, and they want to get better with the roster. They have a short list with 3 interesting candidates, is the quote. And Derek Ray broke this press conference down on Twitter. He says it's not Jesse Marsch's job right now, and specifically mentioned Jesse Marsch. He said he denied that it was definitely Jesse Marsch's job. He said he's read that. It's not true. They'll continue the process. Fabrizio Romano said that it's Jesse Marsch's job. DW speculated that it was Jesse Marsch's job. The sporting director at RB Leipzig, who could be saying this for press conference stuff, said it's definitely not Jesse Marsch's job right now. He would seem to be the obvious move from Salzburg over to Leipzig.
Yeah. That for me is, as once again, as Captain Obvious here on the show, I'm sitting here and trying to follow the dots in the train here. And, you see it in business all across the board, where if there is a hierarchical structure, you cut your teeth in Orlando or Greenville, and then you sit there and you make the next step up to the next largest city, something like that. So I'm looking at it as going up the chain, and for me, that's why I would be looking at Jesse Marsh in this situation, just because it makes sense in that hierarchical structure, in that idea for going the next step up the ladder as opposed to anything else.
Couple more comments from the Twitch pitch. Dawn said, thought Klopp would be next for the German team. I think it was too early. Things just fell into place with Flick wanting out of Bayern because he wasn't getting along with the sporting director. He forced it. He had been the assistant there before with the German national team. So that part was the easier move. I think the ideas about Klopp being so unhappy and leaving Liverpool were overstated. So he'll be at Liverpool probably through his contract, and then he'll probably take time after his contract. This was what had been said originally, was he'd see his contract out at Liverpool. He wouldn't sign a new one. We'll see if that changes. And then I think he'll wait. I don't know if Hansi Flick will be, the German national team manager for a period of time like Jogi Löw was, which is somewhat unprecedented at the highest levels of the game. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. I think Klopp will potentially be after Flick in terms of that. It just depends on the timing, though, and that's the hardest thing about national team jobs and predicting them. It just depends on the timing and who's in a job and who's available. And, Frank de Boer at the Netherlands, a lot of people have tried to dunk on that appointment. He was available at the time, and, they didn't expect Ronald Koeman to leave and go to Barcelona. That was the only out he had in his contract, and, well, it happened, so he took it. And then you needed somebody really quickly who was right there, and yes, there's Frank, and he's got the job. Sometimes it can go that way with national teams. So Klopp will be a manager for the German national team. I just don't know what order it'll be. Katie wants to know where we think Jogi Löw will land. And I don't know.
In his living room watching on a large television?
Why you got to be like that about it?
I mean, just you figure you take a year off and just watch everything else and go with the landscape.
He's been a national team manager. He's been taking it easy. It's not the same. Like I think you go the other way. I think you want to work. You want to work day to day. I mean, if the rumors are true that he's been taking Spanish courses and he's talked about La Liga a lot,
yeah.
Does he try to get a job in La Liga? I don't know what would be the fit for him right now because the big jobs don't appear to be open at the end of the season. So
unless Atleti falls and they don't get the title at the end, then is at the end for Simeone.
Well, I mean that'd be a bold move from Atleti. It's you get to a point where you've been somewhere as long as Simeone has that I think you've earned the right to walk on your own. Now he might do that, but they would really be rash to fire him.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a bad look for Atleti. Could it happen? Sure, anything can happen. That'd be a pressure cooker to walk into, and it's a kind of a weird spot because I think Atleti now is expected to be toe-to-toe with Real Madrid and Barcelona, but they're not as big of a club. Now, the way the financials have shifted, I don't know how much closer they are now to being at the same level. In the past, they've been a good bit below, and Simeone's had them punching above their weight. So that would be one. I'd want to do my homework if I'm Jogi Löw, if Atleti opened up. He might be better off because it's been so long since he's been a club manager. It might be better off like more of that next tier. And I don't know who would have a job open. I'm talking like your Villarreal's. Valencia's a mess, so you wouldn't want to go there. Normally they would be in this fit, but they've fallen off so much. Somebody like that, he'll be able to pick a little bit of where he wants to go and have some opportunities. I don't think he'll have the upper echelon of clubs beating down his door. I think it'll be the second tier, that next level, like Europa League level clubs. So we'll see. I think he wants to work. I just don't know if the right job's going to be open. So we'll have to wait and see, Katie, as the carousel continues to spin a little bit. I do think he'll want to work. I just think national team stuff, I mean, it's so stop-start. I think he wants to prove himself. because he's not going to end it well at Germany. I mean, maybe they have a great Euro and they win the trophy, and then he gets to ride off into the sunset. It sure doesn't look like that's going to happen with what we've seen from Germany lately.
Right, and then for me, how much of a detraction is that fade with the German national team and him chasing after a league job somewhere?
I mean, yeah, that's why I don't think your Real Madrids are going to come calling. Maybe they would have a year ago, but I don't see something like that happening now. So I'm not seeing it. I think it's the next level. I think it's the next level. That's all. Okay. Abby shared a bunch of stuff in the Twitch pitch. You're going to have to scroll back if you missed it. If you're going to the match tonight, Atlanta and Philadelphia, trying to get things sorted out and better with some of the issues that, look, I mean, you can't really prepare for 20,000 people in your building for the first time, and some people not following all the regulations and rules about masks and such, and et cetera, et cetera. You've got to adjust. There have been some adjustments. Make sure you're following all the supporters groups tonight. They're getting all the word out. All of the SDH Nation folks are getting the word out, letting people know. Follow the protocols. Be smart. Also know that, I mean, it's going to be hard to control people acting foolish if they decide to act foolish. Protect yourself. Be smart. If you're around a group that is not really following things the way they should be, find a spot to move to. You just kind of have to accept that the larger the group, there's going to be some people who don't want to follow it, and it's hard to police all of it. So look out for number one, first off. That's the number one element here today.
Yeah, and just be there, be safe, have fun, but keep an eye on everybody else around you and all of the activity going on around you too. And so just keep an eye on all that stuff and look at your normal channels for all of your discussions and things like that, supporters groups, message boards, those kinds of things, the apps and all that kind of stuff. But should be another fun crowd tonight, another big event. And just, like I said, just make sure that you know what the rules of engagement are and follow them as well as humanly possible.
There is a helpline to text if there are issues that can get sorted out. Beer throwing's not tolerated right now. We're in the midst of a pandemic. People have thrown beer in the past, John, before a pandemic, and that people kind of like doing that. And it's it's part of the deal.
And players also partook on thrown.
No, John, you're mixing things up. Never throw beer on the field. That's not what I'm talking about. You've seen goals when people throw beer in the air.
Yes.
Celebrating. Throwing beer in the air. Not talking about players partaking.
Don't celebrate doing stuff like that.
Yeah, don't do that right now. It's called a pandemic. So, don't throw beer. Don't ever throw beer on the field. Don't throw beer in the air right now. That is not tolerated. Will result in people getting thrown out of the building. So, get the text line. 69050 is the text line inside the stadium. It will be posted everywhere. So, take care of yourself and be smart about it. And if you gotta text, you gotta text. That's just where we are. It's sad. So, and I know Cust MX1, it is hard to move spots because of the zip ties, because they're trying to keep it separated. If you got to move back into what I'm saying is, if you got to move back into the concourse for a minute while you call, stuff like that. But just understand that it's impossible to be everywhere at all times. If you're the club, if you're the stadium staff, help them out. But also, number one, look out for yourself, just because people are going to be people sometimes, and sometimes not smart people. And that's going to happen. So be smart.
Mm-hmm. Be smart.
Be smart. All right. Whatever questions you have about Atlanta, Philadelphia, we will get into them for the next half hour. If you have questions about Real Madrid and Chelsea, that goes on this afternoon. You got questions about Libertadores. I know Tommy will be double watching with Philly and with IDV, Independiente del Valle. They play tonight. Whatever you guys want to get into, let's do it. What do we have on Twitter, John?
We have on Twitter, we have an international question. We do not have anything yet for Atlanta.
Yeah, I mentioned everything. What do we have?
Tafka, in the theme of should I stay or should I go? Hoppy, Sargent, and Weah. If you were in their shoes, very different shoes, he says.
Yeah,
what
all
do you
different.
do? And if you leave, where do you go?
Well, the where do you go is not really a fair question because you don't have complete say over it. Somebody's got to invite you. You know, like it's nice to see. I want to go here. Okay, nobody wants to sign me.
Can't quite crash the party if you ain't invited.
Yeah, it's that part I'll leave out. Weah would maybe be the best to stay because I think others will go in front of him and he could be in line for a lot of minutes at Lille, who will have Champions League next year, I think. Stay. If you're Tim Weah, I think staying is the best route, as long as they can pay your salary on a regular basis, which could be a question. If you're Hoppy, I think you need to stay because you're going to have an opportunity to play a lot. And you're not ready yet. You're just not ready yet. Sargent's the hard one. I don't know what the market is. So I would put him in the middle. I think Hoppy should stay and play. I think Weah should definitely stay, no question. And Sargent, too early to tell because we need to see what happens in the relegation spots in Germany. Dawn asks, what lineup do you see for Atlanta? No Brooks Lennon, we know that much. He's not going to be available to play. No Matteo Sassetu, he's not available to play. We know those. The question comes down, we talked about it a lot on the run-up last night, and if you get a chance to go back and check that out, it's about 45 minutes, and we speculated a lot on how the lineup could look because you're playing a 4-4-2 diamond. It's different than a 4-4-2 flat midfield like we saw from Ala Walenze in leg one. It is two up top, which generally means Gabriel Heinze will go to three center backs. That's the normal reaction. Not always, but the normal reaction. The diamond midfield for Philadelphia could change that. You could play a version of a 4-2-3-1, which is the same as what you're playing essentially, but one more holding instead of one in the front. Instead of two in the front, one in the back, it's two in the back, one in the front in your midfield. Two holding, one attacking, rather than one holding, two attacking. You could do that. You're going to have to be really careful with their two forwards because you're going to be 2v2. That's not something Gabriel Heinze generally wants with two center backs against two forwards. So three center backs I lean to here. Is it three true center backs, like Alan Franco coming into the team? Or is it Santiago Sosa dropping to the back line? Because of their midfield, I think it might be time to play Alan Franco. Or, I mean, you've got other center backs, and you could go in a different direction if you don't think Alan's ready. But I'd like to have Sosa in the midfield to deal with their strength in their midfield. Philadelphia wants to play centrally generally, but then pop the ball out wide to somebody like Kai Wagner, who is overlapping, really taking the space in front of him. There's nobody to overlap because they're central. Wagner getting forward from left back. You want to play him. You want to play Mbaizo to the right. But your width is only those guys. You've got four central midfielders. So if you're Atlanta, you got to deal with that. And you always want numerical superiority. You can't have five central midfielders, so you're not going to have exactly numerical superiority. It's a tricky spot. When I've looked back, I haven't found a team that Gabriel Heinze has played that has played a 4-4-2 diamond during his time in Argentina, so I don't have anything to go on there. I look at something Bielsa's done against 4-4-2 diamond teams in the past. He's leaned into a 3-3-1-3 a lot of times that has functioned more like a diamond. His 3-3-1-3 has played with wing backs a lot too. But he's also done it it's almost a 3-diamond-3. If you want to match their midfield and have one more center back, you could do that. You've got the personnel to do it. That would be very bold. It's not a normal formation. It's not something these guys have probably ever really played. That's a challenge, especially without really much training time to get ready for this game. Gabriel Heinze was very clear in that challenge coming up with Philadelphia because of them being so unique in the way they're positioned and the way they play. I'm really curious to see what his midfield looks like. I think the simplest thing would be a 3-5-2 which would leave Marcelino Moreno in a very free role underneath the forward. Think back to Miguel Almiron in that role in 2018 in the playoffs where, yes, he's a forward, but he can float wherever. You would have 3 central midfielders to deal with their 4, which is not ideal, but you'd have the extra center back. You'd have the wing backs who could tuck in and help provide a little bit of extra when you need it. That might be the way to go based off what you've done and what's the easier transition to dealing with Philadelphia. The boldest transition would be to play 3 center backs, a diamond that could look like Sosa in the back, Ibarra and Heinemann as the shuttlers, as the 8s, and Barco as the 10. I don't hate that idea. It's just we haven't seen anything like it. That would match their diamond, which could be Martinez in the back, Jose Martinez, Bedoya and Montero as your 8s, and Fontana as your 10, or Montero as your 10, and Leon Flack and Bedoya as your shuttlers. Flack could be the holding guy as well. Their diamond could look more like a box, because Flack and Martinez can both sit, Bedoya and Montero could both be the 10s, because Curtin talked yesterday, Anthony Fontana's been a little disappointing for them. If he's not ready for this, you could go with Sergio Santos, Kasper Shabilko up top, Montero and Bedoya behind that. If it's a box, you got to be careful with that too. It's similar to a diamond, but it plays a little differently. You got to be ready to make those adjustments. The chess match between the 2 managers is the number 1 story going into this. How does Atlanta prepare to deal with their 4-4-2 diamond? I saw the question come up in the Twitch pitch about how Frank DeBoer dealt with it in the postseason in 2019. Remember, Atlanta was playing a 3-5-2 at that point, pretty exclusively. And it was a very free 3-5-2. It looked like a 3-4-3 a lot of times, like we saw in 2020 with Pitti and Barco behind Joseph in like a 3-4-2-1. Against Philly in the postseason, he switched. He went to a 4-4-2 kind of shape. It wasn't really a diamond, but he went to a line of 4 because he brought Mikey Ambrose back in. And Mikey Ambrose had been playing for the 2s almost exclusively the second half of that season. Mikey came in and started the Eastern Conference semifinal and did really, really well because it suited playing Philly. Heinze's more aggressive in wanting the extra free man defensively. So I think it will be 3 center backs. I don't know what the midfield looks like. I really don't. I can't wait to see what the list of players is and then what it really looks like and how it plays. Because this is a big test for Atlanta United tonight in dealing with a team that is very comfortable playing the way they play. They know exactly how to do it. And you're not very comfortable in the way you play yet. And you're not very comfortable in adjusting to this yet. It's a tough challenge for Atlanta.
So then let me ask you this. The question that you had posted in the Twitch pitch as we were leading into the show, can I twist it and rephrase it a little bit and ask you the question?
No, you can't. You can't do that. Sure, you can.
Darn.
You can. Sorry, I'm being a jerk again. My bad.
Oh. I was going to, because we don't know what the player... we don't know what the game day roster is looking like right now. With the question that you posed and with the challenge that Philadelphia brings to the table, I was going to ask what position is going to be the most important. Is it going to be Barco? Like if you go 3 diamond 3, let's say 3 diamond 3, you do something like that. Is it Barco at the top of that diamond so you can make sure that you get goals on the board because you know you want to leave here with an advantage? Or is it the back end of the diamond with Sosa or whoever's going to be at the back end of the diamond to make sure that Philadelphia doesn't score anything and is frustrated so you can have those advantages offensively? What would be the most important position group that we need to look at here?
The back end of the diamond, the defensive midfield in whatever formation you play. Because it's 180 minutes. You want goals here. You want to have a cushion going on the road. You want to be in that position. You're not going to overly risk to get there. That would be foolish. So it's the back end of the diamond because however they function, Shabilko likes to drop into the midfield. Bedoya pops up in dangerous spots. Montero's a great player, and he can change a game on his own. If it's Sergio Santos, he's pretty tricky, and he's got speed, and he can drift out wide and make it really difficult to follow. That diamond can fluctuate and turn into a rhombus all of a sudden if you're Philadelphia, and you got to be careful with that. It's the defensive midfield for me because they give you the solidity. You'll expect to find goals one way or another. You've got to keep Philly off the board here. You're not going to play defensively. Don't get me wrong. You're never going to see Atlanta come into a game playing defensively under Gabriel Heinze. I don't expect it. I don't think you'll come in with a defensive stance. But you will come in to deal with their attacking challenges. That's different. When I say defensive stance, I'm talking like 5-6 behind the ball. I'm talking parking buses. I'm talking negative. That's not how Gabby's going to play it. So to give you the balance, that holding midfield, if it's Sosa, and I would love to see him in the holding midfield because I think he's needed there. I think you can, it's not ideal. You'd like to have Alan Franco with more minutes under his belt. You'd have loved to have him for a whole preseason. Didn't get that luxury. If you don't feel like he's ready, well, then you're turning to George Campbell, who's been there with you from day one and has looked good when we've seen him. Okay, if that's the way to go, that's the way to go. But I think it's 3 true center backs, and I think Sosa in the holding midfield gives you the best chance if you can do it because of what Montero, Bedoya bring. And it might be Sosa with Franco Ibarra to give him even more help. And that 5 really setting the base for this team to free up the others to get forward. That's the most important part of the team for me.
Because, in looking at it, knowing what the challenge that Philadelphia brings to the table, for me, taking your question, I was going to say Sosa because he would be the back end of what Philadelphia is bringing to the table. For me, when you're looking at the back, Sosa would be the one who would be more integral or most integral in that support structure in addition to the back line. So for me, it would have been Sosa.
It's the holding midfield. Yeah, for me, it's the holding midfield. I don't know if that's going to be Sosa or not. I think it will be, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not going to tell you I know exactly what the lineup will be. I don't. This is a very different situation, but what I'm trying to lay out is a little bit of the thought process of how you deal with these things, because you don't just say, we play 4-3-3, that's what we do. I don't care. That's foolish. That's not how this thing works, ideally. You got to be ready to deal with things, and you got to be ready to deal with their 2 up top. You want to get an extra defender in, okay. You got to be ready to deal with their midfield. How do you do that? Is it going to be with 3? Okay, with 2 holding? Okay, that can work. Your wingers can pinch in. They can provide extra support. Your outside backs could pinch in. Okay, if it's wing backs, if you're playing 3, yeah, they can pinch in. You can make that work. You absolutely can. Is it the best way to make it work? That's the part that Gabriel Heinze and his staff will decide upon. And it comes down to not just like on paper with little stick figures of this stick figure is really good here. No, it's people. And where are they? And how are they feeling? And do you have the right people for the right spots? Or do you have to say, I'd like to do this, not ready to play that way yet, or I don't have the personnel to play that way yet? That's also part of the decision-making process. So we'll see at about 7 o'clock tonight when the lineup comes out. Might be a little bit later. CONCACAF rules are just a little different. But we'll dig into that. We're going to have a stoppage time special a little bit after 7 o'clock at facebook.com/929thegame. We'll have a watch-along here. Not play-by-play, not game commentary. It will be like if you're sitting watching the game and reacting to it. That's what the watch-along is. And we'll have a post-game coverage probably here after that, and that'll go out on the app as well. Coco had a question. Did Gurr play his way into a start tonight, or do we see Hernandez? I think the safer choice is Gurr because we've seen him. We haven't seen Ronald Hernandez yet, and I don't know why. I know he joined the group a little bit later. I know there were fitness issues earlier on. I don't know if that's still a concern, but we've seen Gurr, and I thought Gurr did well. I don't put as much of the mistake on the goal on him, although he didn't handle it well. But he did handle it well when he combined in sending Jurgen Damm through to create goal number 3. I think Jack Gurr gets the start tonight if you're in a formation that has a right back or a right wing back. I think you get Jack Gurr in there. If you're going wing backs, you could get really creative, and he's played wing back a little bit during his time at Tigres, Jürgen Damm. Or he's played wing back here last year in Jake Mulroney. You could go down that road as well. They're going to have to do the business defensively, but they can also get forward and maybe be even more of a threat than Jack Gurr going forward. I think it's Gurr. I think that's the easiest solution.
Taka wants to know if Philly rested anyone for their match on the weekend.
Fontana didn't start, but I don't think that was due to rest. I think that was due to performances not being where Jim Curtin wanted, just based off of what he said yesterday. No, they went with their normal group. They don't really have any depth to rotate right now. They're struggling with injuries. They're not at full strength, so they have some limited options. If they wanted to do that, they can't. They didn't look great on the weekend. Again, Miami's not a bad side, but they didn't look great, maybe distracted, maybe feeling the pressure a little bit. This is something that Curtin alluded to a little bit yesterday, in my opinion. Philly has improved a ton. Philly has a style. Philly has a philosophy. They have a great manager in Jim Curtin. What have they done in a pressure-packed match? Not much. Not much. They won in the postseason in 2019 in a wild game to get to the Eastern Conference semifinal. And Atlanta handled them pretty well. I mean, it was 1-0, and then Philly went into their patented move from the diamond into the 4-2-3-1 to bring on Ilsinho in the 60th minute, and that was a bad move. Atlanta controlled the game even more after that and ended up winning it comfortably. Last season, they were knocked out in the postseason after a great year. I think they're a great team, but can they win a big game? Are they ready to deal with that? You can have the same questions about Atlanta because there's so many new faces, but you do have guys who have won big games who are in the Atlanta side. Maybe that is a factor here when you get into the intangibles because Philly should have that drumbeat in the back of their head. All right, it's a big game. Are we ready for this? Can we do this time? Because they haven't in the past. We'll see how they look tonight. Good thing there's going to be fans in the building. I mean, that's going to help Atlanta because that's going to make it feel like a big game. How does Philly handle it? I'm really curious because they come in the more solid of the two just in terms of players back. You know, they don't have a lot of depth, but their group's played together a lot. Atlanta's hasn't. And Atlanta hasn't played anybody like Philly yet. It's going to be interesting. Now, when I say somebody like Philly, I'm talking about the shape. I'm talking about the way they play. It's going to be very, very interesting. There's so many things going on here. There's so many questions and storylines going into this.
Yeah, Jim Curtin, yesterday, when he was talking about the match in and of itself, Jonathan Tannenwald over at the Philadelphia Inquiry, Curtin talked about Sosa, and he referenced Sosa as very impressive at his ability to control the tempo of the game, to take away the opponent's top player. Curtin says on Sosa, I think he's going to be one of the best signings in our league from the offseason. I don't wrong so far.
Well, yeah, it's early. I'm not exactly sure if I agree on the part about taking away the opponent's best player in Sosa's role. I think what you saw from Chicago is they tried to make it difficult for Sosa to be involved as much in the buildup, and Gabriel Heinze talked about that. You've got to find other ways. Orlando, I think, tried to do that as well. So you've got to use the flanks. You got to build up around the outsides, and you can do that too. I mean, you take what the game gives you. That's ideally what Gabriel Heinze wants this team to be able to do. You can go in with a plan. You can go in with a model. You know exactly what you want to do. The opponent might take something away from you, and you got to find a solution. If they take Sosa out of the build-up play, if they have somebody sit on him, and it's a very common practice to do, you make sure that your number 10 or your second forward, when the ball turns over, they find Sosa. They find him, and they try to mark him out of the build-up. Okay, that's cool. That takes a player away. Play it down the line to Bello. Play it down the line to Gurr in this case instead of Lennon. Get out down the sides. That's completely fine. You want to get to the sides anyway. So if you get to the sides earlier because they're going to try to take Sosa out of the build-up, that's cool. You just have to be ready to do that. Sam Williamson wants to see Cubo Torres play tonight. Start or sub on. I wouldn't be against it. He's a different kind of number 9 than Lisandro Lopez, and I think at times Lisandro has been so focused on connecting with others that he hasn't been in the 18 as much as I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him get on the end of more things. Kubo will do both, but I think Kubo is more of a poacher. So maybe it gives you a different look. It's just a different kind of player that might unlock something while you're still trying to get Joseph back up to full speed and full rhythm. He's not quite there yet. He was better. He was better on Saturday, I thought, but he's not quite there yet. Is he good enough to start? I lean that way.
Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure. I would like to see Kubo available, though.
And where I know a lot of folks are wondering about Joseph and where he is, and the point that we continue to make is match fit versus match sharp. Yeah. And those are two different things to look at here. You could be all the match fit in the world, but as you're trying to get match fit, understanding a new system, understanding the relationships, understanding where you have to be, these are two different things that we're talking about here. Being that half a step behind in your response to an idea, those kinds of things that just continue to evolve with your time out there on the field. And so that's a big difference here that we're talking about where Joseph is concerned, match fitness and match sharpness.
Shiva asks if we can match their diamond. I think you've got the personnel to. Thomas Jawin says it's less ideal because the opponent who uses it regularly is better drilled in it. Yeah, of course, but Atlanta's not being built to play in one formation. They're being built to play with a philosophy in a variety of ways. So you're going to put that to the test if you go diamond against them. But I don't hate the idea of Sosa behind Ibarra and Heinemann behind Barco as your diamond, because it can turn a lot of different ways. It's really easy for that to adjust. If that needs to turn into a 4-2-3-1, Ibarra drops with Sosa, Heinemann sits in front, Barco goes out to the wing. It can be the 4-1-2-3 variant where it's Heinemann and Ibarra in front of Sosa. You can move that around really easily. Barco will drift to the flank anyway a lot of times because he's going to go find space. So that can work. You've got a lot of variation with it, and that's the number one thing about the way Atlanta will play. When you think formation, you're thinking more defensively, not offensively. Offensively, it's more of an idea and a framework. Defensively, it's more of a structure. That's the biggest difference. But you also are thinking that way in terms of the ball turns over, how you can defend immediately rather than dropping into a shape. So if you're matched up, it's pretty easy. If it's that simple and you're in the final third, you turn the ball over, Jack Elliott's got it as one of their center backs. You've got your front three in a 3-4-3 diamond. You've got your front three against their four. All right, they're going to have to find the free man, but you can make them work. And in their next line, their midfield, their diamond, you're man-to-man. You're one-on-one with them. So they're going to have to move and try to find the space. You can take that away. Then what do they have? If they don't find the free man and they can't find a midfielder because you've got them bottled up because you've matched it, they got to go long, and you've got 3 against their 2. That works pretty well. Is it textbook in the way you deal with this? Is it maybe what you'd like to do against Philadelphia? No, because you'd like to be able to do some different things, but if that's what you do to make them play long and give you the ball back, that's what you do. Formations, again, they're overrated. It gets way too bogged down in it. I know we have too, but Philly presents a very unique challenge because of the way they play. You've got to find a way to deal with it. And we'll see. We'll see what he does. I'm really fascinated to see it. It is about making it difficult for them. It's about keeping superiority. And the other thing about superiority that I think is an essential element here with the way Gabriel Heinze sees the game, numerical superiority is the easy one. You want one more player than they have in certain parts of the field. It's almost impossible to do against their diamond. You got to figure out how to manage that. But if they have 2 up top, you have 3 center backs. That part's easy to understand. But you're also trying to find qualitative superiority where you can. And is that in a situation where Olivier Mbaizo New right back for them. He's been there, but new regular right back for them. Do you say he's never been in this game and it's kind of stakes? Let's put Barco there. Let's have Marcelino Moreno there. Let's feed Marcelino Moreno to run it in Bizo all day long. It's Kai Wagner. He's really good going forward. We want to put him on his heels and make him defend. Let's run at him. Let's try to play down the right side to focus on him. You find those situations where you feel you're better than the opponent and you try to exploit them. So you're looking to create those two by the way you lay out the chess pieces. And it's just like chess. Like, you don't think of chess as formations, right?
Mm-mm.
You move pieces to get what you want. That's the same thing that a game does here. You're moving the pieces in the context of the game to get the things you want. And, yeah, you're going to start in a shape. You're going to be back in that shape from time to time, but you're wanting to move to create what you want in the game. So it's not rigid. Teams that are more rigid are more limited, in my opinion. Teams that are going to play this way have a framework, but are not limited. They can adjust based off what happens with the game.
And with chess, you're sitting there and you're trying to move your pieces to pin your opponent in, so you can then in turn get the larger, the more impactful pieces, so you can end up winning the game. And so that's how I've always thought of chess in that aspect of it, where you're moving your pieces strategically on a board to try to sit there and figure out, okay, so here's what my opponent's doing, here's where I can attack my opponent and get an advantage here. And if it just so happens that I can move my pieces and get an advantage over on the other side of the board, it's all about that movement, and it's fluid, although there is an approach to it. You're trying to pin your opponent in so you can take advantage of the mistakes that they make.
Katie Weaver said, if you had to pick a six for your team right now, is it Jose Martinez or is it Santiago Sosa? For Atlanta, Sosa's the better fit. For Philadelphia, Martinez is the better fit. Martinez could play in Atlanta's system, Sosa could play in Philadelphia's system, and they'd be fine. They're better in the systems they're in. And that's how the game goes. Sosa on a team that wants to build up out of that position a little bit more, he's a great fit because he's great on the ball. Martinez is in a role where he wins it and feeds Bedoya and feeds Montero a little bit more. A little shorter passes. Okay, and that works too. And he's really good for that. Sosa could do it. You wouldn't get the full Santiago Sosa experience. Martinez could do some of the things that Sosa does here, but he would also interpret the position differently, and I don't think it'd be quite as effective. So, in Atlanta's system, it's Sosa. Definitely Sosa. Burned, one more right before we get to the hour break. Byrne says, I vaguely remember a Philly game where we also played a diamond, and Larinowitz said afterwards everybody was just standing next to each other and nothing happened. I mean, yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing here if you're a little worried about it. If you come out of here 0-0, then you've got 90 more minutes. You haven't lost anything yet. I think the element that is a little different in the way that Gabriel Heinze interprets things is he doesn't mind that, because then they can't play through their midfield. They've got to play long. They've got to give the ball back to you. He will be expecting his front three, because the time you played a diamond against Philly, you didn't play a 3-4-3 diamond, which I haven't ever seen Atlanta play. The reason that I keep going back to that is it gives you the width up high if you want it. And that's another key element. I think we've talked about the attack. We talked about the way Atlanta defends a lot. The way they are structured helps them defend, because the wingers stay high and wide, and it makes it hard for the outside backs to get forward. That takes away another element of the opponent. So if you can do that out of a 3-4-3, and Moreno and Dom or Mulraney can stay up very high, keep Wagner, keep Mbaizo pinned, and get 1v1s. You're expecting Marcelino Moreno to win more than half of his 1v1s. You want the same from Mulraney or Dom. You want them to run at somebody, unbalance the opposition, then it turns in, instead of a 3v4, it's a 3v3, and you're on the run, and you like those odds. That's why you're okay with everybody standing next to one another and nothing happening because you're trying to make something happen in a different part of the field. You ready, John? Have you stretched?
Oh, I guess I need to stretch.
I don't know if you need to stretch. I'm just asking. Because it's about that time.
Yeah, I think it is about that time, isn't it?
Yes, it is about that time.
About that time.
For John to tell us about our good friend Steve Apolinsky.
Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, one place you need to go. And it is said firm, Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. 3 different ways that you can do it. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve at aa-legal.com. You can pick up the phone, get a free consultation, 404-377-9191, or go on the World Wide Web, large device or small. Type in aa-legal.com in the address bar. Hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever advances you to the homepage for Apolinsky and Associates, and you can see all the different cases they can handle for you, all the different honors they have received. And if you still have questions, there's a pop-up window that pops up low right-hand corner, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison, for that, as always. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in 2 time zones, the Eastern and the Central, clients in Georgia and Alabama, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia for wrongful death and serious injury matters, and other cases too. You can find out about Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, by going to one place, the website. The website is aa-legal.com.
Okay. We will get reviews of John's read here in just a second. How you feel about that?
It's all right.
Not selling it.
It was fluid.
Okay. There we go.
I did not sense any internal hiccups in my thought pattern.
Okay. You got a 10. You got a 9. You had some scary eyes when you said at.
At.
You got a 9. You got a 10. You got a 6. Stating comma feels unnecessary. I would agree with that.
Come on, Coco.
It's unnecessary. It's not like you're doing voice to text or anything. It was negated by the earlier comparison of Orlando and Greenville. Stumbled a little, 6 from Coco. Wow, you're going to... Okay, Coco, that's on you. Fender with a 9. Katie with an 8.08. You got a bonus point for the Patadri hoodie from Aberdeen. Sean, today felt like a lack of energy and effort. 3.1234.
Well, it was almost pi.
Almost. 10 from Mr. Fantastic.
Thank you, Mr. Fantastic.
Pacine feels like his chronic positivity is contagious. Ricky gives you an 8. -1 for saying punctuation. Said firm comma. -1 for saying website back-to-back. Of course, Alex gave you a 10. Burn says, that was an older version, so I have to deduct a point for that. 9. Good read. Is John finally learning? Don't say comma, Brad says. 8.75 from Madison, comma, Alabama.
Okay, real quick before we get into hour number 2, since Brad is in from Madison, this is the 10th anniversary of the tornadoes that went through Alabama and Tuscaloosa. I know a lot of folks were watching that day and just seeing Alabama get absolutely ravaged by the tornadoes. But obviously it's been 10 long years, still a lot of work to do. But salute to everybody in the Central Time Zone and everybody else that watches that was affected by that 10 years ago.
Yeah, there were some crazy videos from that. I've never seen anything like that before. Just craziness. Very scary.
But no, and I mean, I give a lot of credit to folks like J.P. Dice, James Spann, Jason, I forget who the morning guy was, but all those meteorologists who were they were up very, very early, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and they were there 16 hours that day, making sure that everybody was safe. A lot of the meteorologists in Central Alabama, they had a long day, Northern Alabama too, and went to small town Phil Campbell after everything had kind of settled in that next football season, to do a story about one of the smaller schools in the state of Alabama and how that whole city was impacted by the whole thing. And so it was a long day for a lot of folks, and it still is in the recovery 10 years and counting.
All right, we're going to get into another Champions League game. We'll come back to Atlanta and Philly questions here in just a second. But this afternoon, Real Madrid hosting Chelsea. No Sergio Ramos. There's still some injuries for Real Madrid, but Eden Hazard is back. Zidane said from the weekend he's fine. He was very comfortable when he played the other day. That was the most important thing. Didn't feel any pain. Ready to go now. Happy he's available because he's going to bring a lot to the team. They need it. I mean, this is the home leg for Real Madrid. Chelsea has just been so solid under Thomas Tuchel. I'm fascinated by this game too, because what can Madrid do to unlock a Chelsea team that has been so strong defensively? Benzema's amazing, and he can find things in the game that just aren't readily apparent. But how much support is he going to get? Does Real Madrid need Hazard to be what we saw him at Chelsea, to be perfectly honest? Do they need a special performance out of him to be able to win this match? I don't think a draw is enough for Real Madrid. I feel like they need to win here and go to Chelsea and find a way to hold on to it.
Yeah.
I don't think they can expect to go to London and win. So I think they have to win here. But how much can they risk? On the Chelsea front, you've got a lot of people popping off at old Tommy Tuchel. Again, he's a bad guy. Nobody likes him, it sounds like. And now you've got Dutch legends talking a little bit of smack about him. They're saying, well, why are you sticking with Timo Werner when he's not scoring goals? Why does he keep playing? What about Kai Havertz? What about Ziyech? They're not playing as much. You've got the chatter already against Tuchel, and he's barely had any failures.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's already starting with people on the outside. The Dutch, I think Dirk Kuyt was one of them who was talking a little bit, chirping a little bit about Tommy Tuchel. I'm kind of with Byrne. I think Tuchel's going to out Zidane and just sit. He's going to play on the counter. That's all he needs to do. He's in the position, I think, to go in, sit, defend. If it's scoreless, you win. You're good. If it's 1-1, you're good. If you steal a goal on the break, even better. Even better if you win it by stealing a goal on the break. You just want to keep it tight here if you're Thomas Tuchel. Dawn says 3-0 Chelsea. Ricky says watch it be 3-1 Madrid. 3-0 Chelsea feels more likely than 3-1 Madrid to me. If Madrid wins, I think it's narrow. I think it's like 1-0. I don't even know if I feel comfortable going 2-1. I think Chelsea will find a way. This was one of our picks last week, or this week on our picks of the week. What did everybody have on this? We don't have Nick's picks yet.
No, and I'm letting Nick know as we speak that he needs to send in his selection.
Yeah.
Rah!
Katie's correct. The Dutch don't like Germans, so they are chirping because of that, possibly, maybe.
All right, so here's the rundown for this one, and the odds have changed a little bit. And this, once again, we always do this courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, and they give a composite of like a dozen different books and come up with an aggregate number. Real Madrid is now at a plus 150. Last night they were at a plus 137.
Oh,
the draw has gone from plus 219 to plus 206.
Okay, and they must have listened to the show last night.
And Chelsea, and you had draw.
Yeah.
And Chelsea went from plus 234 to plus 224. So numbers are kind of drifting on the edges and going up in the draw category. I had a draw. Jarrett had Chelsea, and we're waiting on Nick.
Yo, Nick.
So there you go.
Yeah, I think it's a draw. I'm going to go 1-1. I think it's a 1-1. I think that's a win for Chelsea in the grand scheme of things. Just don't know if Madrid can unlock Tommy Tuchel's strong defensive side. Dawn is trying to choose for Nick. I don't think Nick's going to pick Chelsea. I don't. I think he'll probably go draw. I don't know.
Well, but none of us had picked Real yet, and so if Nick wants to make that early move one way or the other, he could pick Real for the win, and then he could be in front early, or he could be battling from behind.
See, this is like a foreign language to me because I actually pick what I think is going to happen in the game rather than picking against other people and what they're doing. And who's won 6 out of 10?
I believe that would be not me.
Just pick the game. Pick what you think is going to happen. It'll all work out. It'll all work out. I think it's going to be a draw. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think on that. Throw in your predictions in the Twitch pitch. Let us know. Ricky, you're right. If Real Madrid wins, especially if they win 3-1, Zidane gets all the credit. All the credit. Because he's got a team pieced together with like juicy fruit, like stale juicy fruit.
It is MacGyver together.
Yes. For a reference that I hope people understand, because it's a good one. I watched MacGyver when I was like 10, I think.
Thank you. There you go.
Hey, you brought the reference up. I'm just saying.
I did. That's what I'm saying. That's what's
Richard Dean Anderson and MacGyver back when I was a kid. He used duct tape a lot. It's where I learned what duct tape was. I don't. Yeah, Burned. I think you might be right. It might be a boring game. That's okay. They did do a remake of MacGyver. That's true, Thomas. I should be more fair with that. I don't know how the remake did. I don't know how many years it went.
It was on CBS for 5 seasons, I think. And I think
did better than I thought.
Think that. And I think that this was the last season for it. Ratings weren't after 5 years. Once you hit 3, then you can get the syndication dollars, and 4.
Did the remake go longer than the original?
No, I think the original went 7 seasons or something like that. But
now wait a minute. Did they redo it, or is it like in the future? Is it MacGyver's son?
A younger version. But it's in the reboot, he's a younger version, because in the original he was, dude in his 30s and whatever.
Yeah,
and
but
so
this is
like younger. So here's how it is. It's like in the newer version, in the reboot of the show, it's a younger version of the same guy. If that makes any sense.
Okay, so it is a remake or a reboot.
Yeah. It's a reboot, yeah.
Okay, but I think both can be used here. It is not a continuation.
Mm-mm.
Okay. It's not like when they did 90210 on the CW and like Kelly was a guidance counselor at West Beverly High School. They didn't like recast the original people and redo the whole thing. Okay, I got it. The original went 7 seasons. You're up on your MacGyver history. Thomas Jewin has it. The reboot's going to run 5 seasons, finale airing soon. I haven't heard much about the reboot, so I don't know what that means. But cool. No, prequel's different, and that's what I don't understand with this one, Katie, because prequel would be like young MacGyver leading into the MacGyver series that aired in the 80s. I don't know if that's what's going on here or not.
It's so all right. So here's how would you phrase it? It's a reboot.
You're making this more confusing than it needs to be. Hold on. Stop. I don't care about a younger version of himself because that sounds confusing. Are they acting like the original series happened? That's kind of the important question here, because if they're acknowledging the previous series' existence, then it is either a prequel or a continuation. No, it's a total reboot. Thank you, Thomas Jewin. It's a total reboot. We got it. It's a total reboot. It acts like the first series didn't happen. It is the idea of MacGyver set in present day. Okay.
Yes.
Now I understand. Got it. So not a prequel, not a sequel. Mm-hmm. It is just a new version of MacGyver's acting like the show in the 80s never happened. There we go.
Right. Yeah.
CBS is doing all the reboots. I did not know all of these, Thomas Jewin.
They are.
Grief. Oh, it's set in the same universe as Hawaii Five-0 and Magnum P.I. This is really bonkers. Okay, craziness. Anyway, total sidetrack. I don't think Zinedine Zidane watches any of those. Thomas Tuchel might. Tuchel might like MacGyver. He might enjoy it. I don't know. Maybe he's a Hawaii Five-0 fan. But I think any of those shows, MacGyver, Hawaii Five-0, Magnum P.I., the originals or the reboots, would be more entertaining than the match today between Real Madrid and Chelsea. And you can thank Tommy Tuchel for that. I think it's going to be sit back, soak up the pressure, maybe hit on the counter occasionally, try to not get exploited at all by Karim Benzema, and I think it's a 1-1 draw. Forecard, I have no idea what just happened. It got really confusing.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, 1-1 draw. I'm not thinking it's going to be the most exciting thing in the world either. I'll go 1-1 draw.
Okay. More questions, Atlanta and Philadelphia. Dylan Butler's going to join us in about 15 minutes to talk MLS. We'll get his thoughts on Atlanta and Philadelphia. Do we have anything else on Twitter, John?
Rich Ransom says he wishes he was down in Atlanta for tonight's match. He says he's getting that stupid second shot today. Priorities, I guess.
It's a good second shot. It's not a stupid second shot, Rich. It's a good one. Hopefully it's an easy one. The second shot for me, and I tweeted about this because I thought it was a good idea to share experiences with it, because I think there's been a real massive freak out about the second shot. My second shot was nothing. I know others did not have that experience. My first shot was rougher than I think others said the first shot was. So everybody's different. But good on you, Rich. We'll see you down here eventually. Or we'll see you in Chester eventually, one way or the other.
Yeah, I am Team Pfizer, and I'm getting my second shot tomorrow.
Burned is 100% correct. Tuchel doesn't watch any of that nonsense. He watches Knight Rider, the original, because he likes the Hoff.
Yes.
That is 100% correct.
Actually, yes. He's right on. Rich says he hopes for the win to wash Saturday's result out of his mind. He'll settle for a 1-1 draw, maybe even a 2-1 loss in order to have the away goal. And then he finishes with his hashtag of dupe.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Sorry, I needed to hit that for Tommy Tuchel.
Nothing wrong with that. And then Daniel sent the link to the video from for the late game in CONCACAF Champions League tonight, where apparently practice for Toronto got interrupted by a rather large alligator.
Yeah, I'm out. Alligator shows up at training. I'm out. I'm not training. You crazy? I'm out. Not happening.
Yeah.
Not happening. If I'm golfing and I see an alligator on the course, bye. Golfing done, not hanging out with alligators.
I parred out at that point. It's like, oh, okay.
Par out. I don't care. I'm leaving.
That's what I'm saying. I'm leaving and I'm writing on the scorecard par.
No, I don't cheat. I'm not going to give myself credit for that. I don't cheat on my golf score, John. That's really bad form. But no, I'm throwing the scorecard at the alligator and I'm going the other direction. I'm out. He can have the scorecard. I don't care. Bye.
Yeah. And I give Daniel Price full credit for sending the link courtesy of the 4-letter. There's a picture that he posted in our responses, and that alligator is the size of the frickin' golf cart that was on the practice field. That's how big this dude is.
Gone. I'm not hanging out with alligators. No, not hanging out with alligators. Not happening. Toronto, if I'm Chris Armas, I think Chris Armas was basically in the same mindset from a couple things I saw. I'm finding another field. We're gone. We're practicing somewhere else. That game tonight's at Raymond James in Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Or in Tampa.
Behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors, 10 o'clock kick, so it's a late kick at the pirate ship. What are the numbers on Cruz Azul and Toronto from Tampa?
Those are, as I click onto it, Toronto at home is a plus 333. The draw is a plus 270, and Cruz Azul is a minus 132.
Toronto's just nowhere near full strength, and I think what they did against Leon was a little miraculous. Cruz Azul's a different animal altogether, and Cruz Azul's not sending their U20 team like they did to Haiti, so a draw for Toronto would be a good result in the grand scheme of things. It won't be enough for them to advance. They have to try to find a way to win this. I don't think they have it in them. I think Cruz Azul gets the win in the first leg. We'll talk about that one with Dylan as well. A couple things on the Twitch pitch. I do like that Katie is using Twitch pitches in a noun form. Y'all know Twitch pitches sent that alligator to Toronto training. The hate. The hate for Toronto. Y'all found an alligator and sent it to Toronto's training session. That's where we're at this point. The Twitch pitches. Alex Pacine, and this is good to know. In Florida, you always taste the water first. If you don't taste salt, assume there's a gator within 6 feet of you.
Wow.
That's why I don't spend much time in Florida.
Did not know that. That's pretty solid.
That's why I don't spend much time in Florida not having it. Ricky, I don't know what Toronto's deal is. Like, I feel like they got 3 or 4 different stadiums on lock. They've done stuff at Exploria. Now they're over in Tampa. They tried to do stuff at Osceola County, but CONCACAF said nuh-uh. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. They use the wide world of sports. So Toronto just more ambitious, I guess. Or Montreal just said, we don't want all that moving around. We're going to make sure we don't have gators in our facility, and we trust Beckham to keep the gators out. I don't know. No clue. What else we got on Twitter?
Well, real quick, before we get into what else is there, here's what Chris Armas said, and he was in line with you. He says, quote, "There was an alligator, a massive alligator. He crawled on, and my players were running towards the alligator as I went the other way.
I don't like the look of it."
Gone. I'm a Chris Armas on this one.
Yeah,
Get out.
Yeah, they will not have Alejandro Pozuelo tonight, and Chris Mavinga, I think, is going to be a game-time decision.
And they won't have Jefferson Soteldo. Obviously, he will be there soon. That's their new third designated player, and that's a really good signing. Really good signing. I like it. I think they got it for a good price tag as well. We'll see if he lives up to the hype. But he could be Atomic Ant 2.0. He could. He's that kind of a player. We'll see if he can invoke the greatness of Sebastian Giovinco. We will see. Ricky with a question on the Twitch pitch about tonight. What challenges do Philly's backline present? Jack Elliott's really good in the air. He's very tall. That helps. Wagner going forward from left back is a huge problem. You've got to nullify that. You've got to eliminate that. And Bizo's a little more of an unknown quantity. We haven't seen him in these big games. He gets forward well, too, but Philly's slanted to the left. Usually you see Wagner with like 15 to 20 more passes and 20 to 30 more touches than the right side. That's their outlet. That's who they try to get forward. You need to deal with it. Center back, I don't think they're very fast. Elliott and Glesnes are both solid. I think if you get them moving a lot, they're going to have problems. But the biggest challenge they present is Wagner getting forward from the left side. That's the player that can unbalance them and provide width for a team that's very narrow.
Last one on Twitter to catch us up comes from Tafka, and it's on Jefferson Soteldo. He says, when a player who'd have been considered a paradigm-shifting mega signing for the league just 5 years ago comes in with a, quote, "That's awesome, especially for the price. That's a good Tuesday for the league," end quote. You know the league's leveled up big time.
100%. 100%. I mean, this would have been stop the presses not long ago. And now it's like, it's a good deal. Nice move. Cool. Things are progressing along. I think you could see more moves like that this summer because we're starting to hear some of the numbers out of Europe. I think Liverpool posted their financials for the 1920 season. They haven't even gotten into the current season yet, and they lost money with just the little bit of a disruption at the end of the season. It's a couple months, I know, but it was like 4 games, I think, that were behind closed doors. It would have been full home games and the TV disruption and all that, and they lost a decent chunk of money. Now you take a whole year behind closed doors? What are the next round of financials going to look like? And these clubs can handle that to a degree. You get the South American clubs that can't handle that, they're going to have to sell. And the summer could be really big for teams who do have the means to be in the buyer's market. And Soteldo could be the tip of the iceberg, in my opinion.
Yeah, Liverpool reported a £46 million pre-tax loss for the financial year ending May 2020, which adds up to a minus £88 million in their position from just over 12 months ago. So that's what you're looking at.
Yep. Bart, yes, Jack Elliott, West Virginia. Best fourth-round signing you can find in the MLS Super Draft. He has been so much more than I expected, but you can get him moving and create some problems getting in behind him. I think Atlanta's done that before as well. Alex, yes, don't just run away from the Gator. That's not bad. That's not good because they can They can outrun most of us. They're pretty fast.
Yeah.
Walk away, keep it calm, but get out of Dodge.
Back it up and keep an eye on the alligator the entire time. No sudden movements. That's a bad thing.
I'm not following John's strategy because if I have to turn and run, I'm turning and running. I'm not starting with turning and running.
I'm like backtracking. I'm looking at that gator and I'm just
staring that thing in the eyes. What are you thinking? I'm not gonna.
No, I'm making sure that that it is looking in a different direction, and I am backtracking at 180 degrees, and I'm making sure that I get at least a good head start, and I know that I've got an exit. I got an exit door somewhere real close.
Well, you might not have one. Bob and Weave, DM Tim says.
No doubt.
20 miles an hour top speed for a gator in the water, 35 miles an hour on land. I am just not raising the stakes. 45 with the nitro boost. You got to watch out for the nitro gators. You got to climb a tree maybe, Wildchar. That might be what you have to do. Or, as Brad says, push a Toronto fan in front of you and walk away. There you go. Toronto hate. Wow. Anything else on Twitter that we got to clean up?
No, we're caught up. Folks are having a conversation about Fantasy League, and we'll get into that later in the week.
Yes, we will get into MLS Fantasy over the next couple of days. Tomorrow will be a lot of recap of everything from today. Mike Conti will join us tomorrow. We'll get with our friend Klaus German on the Copa de la Liga and Copa Libertadores and all the madness out of South America. Want to get Klaus's thoughts on Jefferson Soteldo to Toronto as well. Thursday, Nico Moreno will join us again from Pulso Sports. Busy week. Friday, we're back to another match preview. We're back to another pre-game day as Saturday, Atlanta, New England in Foxborough. It's all picked up really fast. It's still not quite 100% normal in terms of like what the day-to-day is like at this point, but it's getting closer. Like it feels a little bit more like it did in 2019 with a season and a rhythm and all that, but it's still weird. It's still a little different. Slowly but surely. So, any final questions on the Twitch pitch about Atlanta and Philly? We will take them. I'm trying to think of anything else that stands out to me about this match that we have not talked about. Shabilko is one of the best complete number 9s in the league, in my opinion. You want to limit him like you did with Baric. You want to turn him into a number 9 and make him play back to goal. He can do it, but it's not a strong suit. You want to make the service not be as effective trying to pick him out. I'm really curious to see what Curtin does with the other forward spot. Is it Sergio Santos? Is it Fontana, who's a little bit more of an additional midfielder, a second forward who might drop a little bit deeper? I don't know. I don't know what direction he's going to go. Ricky asked if we know when Mike and I might be able to travel for games again. We don't. I think so far at this point, through that May portion of the season and going into the double international break, there will be no traveling for broadcasts. I don't think it's ruled out after that yet. And by the time you get to late June, maybe it's possible. Maybe. We just don't know. We're not sure yet. But we're doing everything we can to have more resources to call these games remotely and make for a better broadcast. So hopefully we'll have a couple of extra elements this weekend on our end. I don't know if I hope it comes through. I hope it feels like a better broadcast because I think we'll have some better views and better situations. Last one before we get to Dylan. Brad wanted to know about my game day routine, games I call versus like a game like today. Well, a game like today is different. I mean, I'm not doing like my big notes package, for example, but I'm doing the same kind of research to be ready to talk about it. And that's the great thing about doing the show is I'm constantly researching this stuff anyway to talk about it. So that part doesn't change. For a game that I'm calling, I usually start with the roster like a week or so ahead of time. I go through the roster, I go through the bio. It's good now that I've got 4 years of history that I can pull from and start with, and I'll add any new elements to it, like if they signed a new contract, if they moved in the offseason, et cetera, et cetera. I'll create my roster. I will usually start by watching highlights from their last games. Then I'll go back to watching or at least skimming through full broadcast the last couple of their games if I have them. I'm usually looking for specific things by that point because I kind of know how they play. I might look for, okay, a new guy's playing. What is he doing in these moments on the ball? What's he doing in these moments off the ball? I'll pay attention to their press conferences. I'll add any, quotes or elements from that. I'll read, their local newspapers, their local blogs to grab any extra little storylines out of it. But that's how it usually goes. And then game day is when I actually take those notes that are digital and write them. I do handwrite my notes in the booth that day in the hours leading up to the game. It helps with my memory retention. That was always my thing studying for a test, too. So it's the last minute side of it sometimes can be hard, but I've done all the work. It's just that last bit is like my last cramming session to be ready for the test. All right, we're going to get Dylan Butler on the line. Mateo is going to dial this up to bring Dylan Butler from MLSsoccer.com onto the show. Give him just a minute while he gets Dylan ready to go. And we will talk Atlanta Philly. We'll talk Toronto and Cruz Azul. We'll talk MLS Week 2. We'll have plenty of things to jump into as we catch up with our friend Dylan Butler. Dylan_Butler on social media. As we are efforting. There we go. Dylan Butler from MLSsoccer.com joining us. Dylan, how are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Dylan. Doing well. Getting ready for Conca Champions. We've looked back a little bit at Week 2, but let's start with the two games today. Let me start with this one because this has become a bigger question than I thought it would. If you are Toronto and an alligator shows up at your training session, how quickly are you getting out of there?
I thought you were going to ask me how quickly do you get on the phone and say, how did Cruz Azul do this?
Or that would be some real CONCACAFiness, right?
We've heard of fireworks and fire alarms,
right?
and all those other things, and ringing players' individual rooms at 3 and 4 every hour on the hour. Alligator is new.
Yeah, Gator Gate, right? I guess let's find out kind of where that came from, and I don't know if you still, maybe you don't stop practice. Maybe you just figure it's a new way to defend against a serious press, right? Like a Gator's coming at you.
Nope.
How do you kind of avoid that, play it out of trouble? Do you just boot it long? I'm not sure.
I'm retiring if that's the case. If that's what the training sessions are turning into,
out.
I'm done.
Out.
I'm leaving the game. It's all over at that point. Toronto's got a really tough one because they're nowhere near full strength right now. Cruz Azul is in one of the best runs of form that they've ever been in as a club. Yeah. What do you think Toronto's got to do to get a positive result tonight?
Yeah, so I was thinking of that game, and look, I'm going to be honest. I didn't give much of a chance against Lyon in the first round either. So, I think I trust a little bit of their system. They're getting a little bit healthier, right? We saw Jonathan Osorio come back into the mix a little bit. We saw Justin Morrow. We've not seen Pozuelo. That's obviously concerning. Josie's a little bit getting back there. So, I think they just got to do what they did before. You can't concede early, certainly. You can't give them that road goal. So you've got to be compact defensively and certainly take your chances. But Chris Armas has, from day one, spoken about, just us, being us, right? And having that mentality and playing on the front foot. And we even saw that in the match at Lyon where, people were saying, you were lucky to come away with the result. You got a lucky goal. It was an own goal. But the own goal comes from pressure. And we saw that here in New York with the Red Bulls, and he's kind of brought some of that mentality as well with him to Toronto. So, I think certainly you look, the pressure, you've got to say, right, is on Cruz Azul. Because as you mentioned, Toronto banged up. They don't have their full 11. Cruz Azul does. So I think you also play with a little bit less pressure on you as well, right? You could play a little bit freer, I think, if you're Toronto.
No Larea, no Pasuelo. I think that Chris Armas said that they were going to try to figure out what they could do with Chris Mavinga. I don't necessarily think that Mavinga starts. But where Toronto is concerned, and we've seen it in the early sections of MLS season as well, it gives their younger players that chance to make an impact, whether we're talking about a Luke Singh or a Schaffelberg or a Marshall Ruddy, that kind of a thing. So you're going to have the opportunity for some of the younger players for Toronto FC to make an impact in yet another series.
And they have it, and I think they've passed the test early on, right? I mean, and that's been a big sort of overriding storyline for Toronto in general, right? I mean, they've said that this is a hashtag player kids kind of year, and they've proved it right away in some massive games. You mentioned Schaffelberg. Singh scores a goal in their last game as well. He's looked good. You've Ruddy. The list goes on and on. They've had a very impressive academy system at Toronto, but they've rarely used it because they've had all of these more established stars, right? The Josies, the Bradleys, even Javinko, right? You go back there. So I like the youth movement. And when you can mix them in with a healthier Delgado and an Osorio, and obviously Bradley and Altidore again, I think it's a good mix. So I always like to see any team really go out and play their kids, and it's always one of the more exciting things, I think, you guys saw it in Atlanta. George Bello starts doing stuff, and all of a sudden, like, Twitter is going crazy, and social media loves it because everyone wants to see that next guy. And in Toronto, they're kind of finally seeing that, seeing some of those guys play first-team football.
Before we get into Atlanta and Philly, Soteldo, now Toronto gets it done. They've got their third designated player. How big of a signing do you think that is for them?
I think they've done really well with those, right? I mean, Gallardo maybe is the exception, but no one really knew much or thought Pasuelo, can he be the next Javinko, right? And he MVP. So I kind of err on the side of thinking that they've done it right. And look, he's young, right? 23 years old, 18 goals for Santos. He played in the highest levels. So, it's like anything else with a new player coming in. It's how quickly can they adapt, and that's always the biggest question mark. You can't watch a player on film and tape and scout, and that's the part, that's the unknown, the large unknown. So how quickly can he acclimate to I was going to say a new city, but he won't even be up there, right? Climate-wise, it's probably fine being in Florida.
True.
But, just a new team, new country, new situation. I think that's the biggest question. But I like the signing, certainly, for Bill Manning. And again, they've done a great job year after year. So I think he's another interesting one. And another Venezuelan, right, joining Joseph and Cadiz and others. So I like it.
All right, let's get into it. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Get us to Atlanta, Philly, John.
Yeah, Atlanta and Philly tonight. It's going to be, I think, one of the more interesting chess matches, and we've talked about it on the show this week, Dylan, that it's going to be a really interesting chess match because of how Jim Curtin looks at things with his philosophy, and then Gabriel Heinze and his philosophy. This is going to be a good one, and it's going to be a real fun chess match out there tonight.
I think so too, and from like a neutral perspective, you love the fact that regardless, you're getting an MLS team into the semifinals. But for sure, I mean, look, Curtin's well established, right? Supporter Shield winners. Maybe one possible question mark in their 11. Whether it's Fontana at the 10 or if Flack stays. They played without Fontana on the weekends. Was that also just a little bit of gamesmanship for Atlanta? But look, their 11's well established. Everyone knows how they play, and people are learning a little bit more in terms of what Heinze does. And obviously, the big miss for Atlanta is Lennon. I think he's been fantastic. Just his work rate down that right side, he's going to be sorely missed. But I think on the weekend you saw Atlanta start to really kind of get it together in the attack, right? Like especially in that second half, I think they looked a lot more comfortable, and of course Barco does what Barco does, ridiculous goal. But yeah, I think this one could set up for some really entertaining soccer tonight. I think it's definitely a fun. You mentioned it, chess match is a good word for it. A little bit of a contrast in styles, some terrific players on both sides, and maybe the first of a few different high level matches between these two teams that I think will be right at the top of the East this year.
What'd you take away from Philly's loss to Miami? I think it caught some people by surprise. I mean, you get the Higuain double with the brother scoring, but I don't know if people really know where to rate Miami right now. And is this a problem for Philly? Do you think they were looking ahead? Do you think they just got beat by a good team?
I think I would go maybe 2 and 3 of those questions, right? I think not that you're necessarily completely looking ahead, but you are managing, perhaps some minutes and like I said, we saw pretty close to full strength 11 at the start, but then you got all those subs as well. So you've got McGlynn comes in and Burke and Fontana does step onto the field. I think for Miami, we went back and we talked about it. They bossed LA in that first half, and then they got gassed in the second. So you go to play Philly and obviously not quite as hot and humid as Miami, but you give them props for a good win. And I don't think you're really too concerned with Philly. We'll see. Does that carry over to today, right? So like if they lose tonight in a bad way, now you've got maybe 2 bad results back to back. But I think coming in with a short rest into a Champions League quarterfinal, I'm not too concerned if I'm Philly.
When you look at the rest of the weekend that was, I guess let's just start in the East. I think we saw Cincinnati when you don't have Luciano Acosta, and then you can pin it on Brenner, and then you go play in the bandbox at Yankee Stadium. NYCFC puts 5 on the board. Nashville goes down early to CF Montreal, and they come back for 2-2. What else in the East either surprised or raised an eyebrow this past weekend?
Well, first of all, can you defend set pieces, Cincinnati? Look, I know it's a tight field, but dude, come on. Like, that's crazy. And it's funny, right? Last week, I think Jason, you posed a question about concern about NYCFC, and I mentioned clouds. Well, it was a pretty sunny day on Saturday. I think look, it's one game, it was one loss, it was one win. Medina played really well and got a couple of his goals, and so yeah, I don't know if there's been a lot of Orlando. It was funny, right? I'm doing that game. I'm editing it for MLSsoccer.com, and I'm like, first Busio scores a fantastic goal for SKC, and then Nani was like, "Hold my beer," right? Just like the back heel. So I'm like, this is definitely goal of the week. And then Barco's like, "Hey, hang on a second," right? And he showed his magic. But I think a good road point for Orlando. Obviously NYCFC, Montreal, and Nashville. They were like. It was like the same the week before. It felt like. I mean, Montreal first, especially for Nashville, right? Like, concede twice, come back. So I think maybe if you look at a glass half empty, maybe that's concerning for a team that was arguably the best, if not one of the best, defensively a year ago. Toy scores again. Talked about him last week. He just needs that consistency and good start for him. Toronto, Vancouver. 2-2. I don't know. Again, I kind of put that in the lead up to a Champions League match, sort of a book, and the snoozer that was New England and DC. Yeah, we could just go on and get right past that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to dig into that one as we get ready for New England this weekend. I'm not really looking forward to it. I gotta ask
cup of coffee on that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna need 3 or 4 Red Bulls for that in 90 minutes. All right, Adrian Heath, Minnesota. Lots of shade being thrown at David Ochoa and RSL. Shouldn't they be a little more worried about being 0-2 after they were looked at as a contender in the Western Conference?
Yes. I'm not surprised that Heath goes that way, right? Because he's always looking for somebody, right? Whether it's the media or what it was MLS.com. He had a problem with real estate listings, I think, for a while.
Yeah.
Has Adrian Heath come after you yet, Dylan?
No, I mean, I did ask him the question in the post match, which I think his TV response was better, but he gave a good one in the general press conference, and I asked Boxhill as well, and I got that clown response from him as well, which was fun. Look, I mean, I don't think it's again, using that weather terminology, I don't think it's storm clouds yet, because there's reinforcements, right, that are coming. So, the attacks can get better. They did create, I mean, again, it was a situation in that game where they had more possession, they had more shots, they weren't clinical in the final third, and they got punished severely for some huge mistakes. Chase Gasper is usually a really reliable fullback. He plays a very casual pass back, and that gets picked off for a goal. But listen, I am all in on shade and controversies and villains. I love it. I'm almost like Team Alexi in that sense, because
I'm with you guys on it. I love it.
I think you need more, right? You need a little drama. You need a little soap opera action going on. So, and now we're all going to be tuning in the next time these two teams play, right? See kind of, I mean, granted it's going to be at Rio Tinto, but we want to see that, and we want to see the next time they go back to Allianz Field as well to see if there's like a tifo or something with Ochoa on it. So, love it. I love the drama. I think it was petulant from him, but
I agree.
Like I said, I'm all in on it.
So then, let's you talk about drama. Let's get into L.A. and Red Bulls here for a second, because Chicharito's on pace for 74 goals. Yeah, just breaking the record by a couple. Yeah. So you look at, I guess, what does this say more about? Does this say more about early returns for Greg Vanney? How Chicharito has redirected his life after last season? Red Bulls defense, Galaxy defense, choice D, all of the above. Where do we go here after that one?
Yeah, I might go all of the above. I like. Look, we talked about Chicharito last week, and that was one of our talking points coming into week 2, right? Like, what does he do for an encore? Well, holy smoke, his encore, is a hat trick inside 60 minutes. So, fair play to him, well deserved. Player of the week for a second straight week. The league is better, I think, with Chicharito bossing everybody, right? So it just, again, it raises the level, it raises the interest. Now you're going to be tuning into LA's next game as well to kind of see, what he can he score 4 next week, right? So, great start for Vanney, absolutely. Check that box. 6 points from 6 points, 6 points from 2 games, huge. Still problems for their defense, and for the Red Bulls as well. I think Sean Davis said it really well. He said we've got to be better, just collectively, right? When you think Red Bulls, and you guys remember some of those fantastic Red Bulls Atlanta games, just such a rivalry that kind of got built in a really quick time frame. But those games, Red Bull they defended you throughout the field, right? Like from the attacking third, they didn't let anybody have a touch on the ball. If you played from the back, good luck against the Red Bulls. They just swarmed you. It felt like there was 22 players on that team on the field. And we're not seeing that right now, and it's a little bit surprising too, because Struber's a Red Bull philosophy guy. That's the reason he got brought in. So it's got to be better for them. There's not a question about it. Davis was right. You scored 2 goals on the road. Excuse me. You scored 2 goals on the road. You've got to get something out of that game, right? And he felt it was just soft goals that they conceded. So on one side you give Chicharito the credit, and on the other side, yeah, you got to be worried if you're Red Bull and they go home now. They play a Chicago team that, look, they're a dangerous team in the attack as well. So they've kind of given the Red Bulls some problems throughout the years as well. So I think looking ahead at week 3, that's one you kind of also keep an eye out for, just because how does Red Bull respond after back-to-back defeats?
I've got a couple for you as we wrap up, Dylan. The other 2 MLS CONCACAF Champions League matches this week, you've got Columbus hosting Monterrey, you've got Portland hosting Club America. Out of the 3 Atlanta Philly, where it's MLS Liga MX, who has the best shot to go through?
Best shot to go through. I would say Columbus. And then if I power rank them, I would go Portland next and then Toronto.
Yeah.
But here's my concern, right? Like everybody else, I've got CCL fever. I'm all about it. I love it. I've followed it from the very, very beginning. And in doing so, I've seen all of the pitfalls. I've seen all, this is the year. Here comes Salt Lake. They're going to be the team. Montreal is going to definitely. Toronto will be and it's LAFC, and it's just not happened. Here's my concern for those games. Every one of those, or each of those teams, all 3 of those teams, are home in leg 1, right? So now you've got to go to Mexico in leg 2, and I think it just puts extra pressure on you in this first leg, right? You can't concede. You've got to get goals. Like, there's so much pressure on you, and if you concede 1, I mean, geez, if you concede 2, the second leg just might not even be, a match. So
right.
That's my biggest. Like, everyone's excited. There's 5 teams. Yes, that's great, but 3 of those games, you've got to be on the road in Mexico. In the second leg, so that's a concern.
I'll finish with this one, Dylan. Looking ahead to week 3 in MLS, the 2 games that jump out to me, I would have never guessed that these are the 2 games that I really want to watch in week 3. Nashville-Miami on Sunday, because Nashville's been drunken fun every time we've seen them so far in 2021. And Minnesota,
which is about right for Nashville, right?
It is about right
on any given night.
It is about right. A 1:00 Sunday game. I mean, sure, day drinking, that's fine in Nashville, no problems with that. But Saturday night, Minnesota hosting Austin could be a sneaky good game.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% there with you. I love that. I love that match. Austin coming off their first win, Minnesota a little bit of concern now after these 2 games. Liked what I saw from Austin. We didn't talk about them, but yeah, great win for them. Congratulations to them. Dominguez with the brace. Guys,
but is that more
I certainly
Colorado being bad or Austin being good?
Yeah, I mean they're paper thin in the midfield. I mean they just ran over them in that spot. But look, kudos to Austin. A lot of guys that I've seen here very closely, kind of contributing to them, right, with Ring and Sweat and hopefully Sweat's going to be better. But yeah, no, I'm right. I'm there with you too, Jason. I love that matchup. I think I would, looking at the fixtures, I'm right there with you. I think those are I think are the most intriguing, because you also have a lot of these CONCACAF kind of waiting for the second leg. So, I'm not so excited about a lot of those matchups because you could be resting guys. But yeah, no, I like those 2, and yeah, I mean, let's go, right? Like it should be a lot of fun. And how about Seattle, LA, right? As well. I mean, that's always fun.
Yep.
Can Chicharito score 4 against Stefan Fry and Seattle? We'll see.
It's been a great first 2 weeks. It feels like we're getting some new storylines in the league and some new teams kind of stepping up and grabbing the spotlight.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. It's a league of parity. I still think the cream rises to the top, and I think you'll see the Columbus is. I think, this will be a big year for Atlanta once Joseph gets going and, he gets that good combination with Barco playing again. I think we'll see better from NYCFC. I hope certainly you see better from Red Bull and now you've got Austin coming in and the drama with Minnesota, and it's awesome. It's awesome. It's not a league shy of entertainment, and we've had that certainly through 2 weeks.
Dylan, thanks for the time. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. You're going to be busy this week. You got CONCACAF. You got week 3 to look ahead to. You're going to be very busy over the next few days, my friend.
Let's go. I'm all about it.
We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for the time.
All right, boys.
Make sure you're following him, Dylan_Butler on Twitter, the maestro of the previews at MLSsoccer.com, among many, many other things. I didn't know it was Dylan who got Boxall to go clown with the quote. That's good stuff. I like it.
That's always a good thing.
Good stuff. Good conversation on the Twitch pitch as well, digging into just how things could look as that South American market gets really, really interesting. Over the summer, lots of players' names being thrown out there, and we could go out and do this, you could go out and do that, you could go out and do this. That's what the summer could look like. That's absolutely what the summer could look like. What else do we need to clean up, John, before we get to our USL League One block?
We have some USL news out of the USL Championship. It appears that John Hackworth and Louisville City have mutually agreed to part ways after only one match in the USL Championship this year. That's from Jeff Reuter at The Athletic.
What?
No other details given as of yet, but when we know more, we will let you know.
So that's just coming from Jeff Reuter right now. It's not coming from anything else.
Yeah, Jeff Reuter right now.
Okay. I wasn't sure if Louisville City had said anything yet. Whew, that's a surprise. I didn't see that one coming.
No, and that's right now, mutually separated is the term. After initially, Jeff said about a half hour ago, informed Lou City players he's stepping down. It was updated with a source with direct knowledge telling Jeff that Lou City and Hackworth mutually separated. So that's the terminology that we have right now coming out of Louisville.
Huh. Really, really interesting. This has been a club that's done incredibly well. This has been a club that has had massive success. This has been a club that he's been a big part of. So I am really, really surprised by that. Jeff Carlisle is confirming that report. I've seen it, and I know our friend Colin has thrown this out there. Others threw that out there. Hackworth to Atlanta United too. It doesn't really fit what you've seen in the past. There will be an opening. Stranger things have happened. Bartimus Prime said Hackworth back to the U.S. Youth National Team setup, which would make more sense in my opinion. He's been a regular in the Youth National Team setup over the years. I'm just surprised it's happening the way it's going now. We'll get into this on the USL Championship check-in on Thursday because you've got now, sounds like Hackworth leaving Louisville. Oakland Roots didn't even get to game 1 in USL Championship before they're having a coaching change. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
What? Why? That's the thing is I don't really get the why here and where this is coming from. So we will see. I don't even know where to go with that because I don't know what would trigger it.
Yeah.
I don't expect it to be a situation about the financials. I can't imagine it'd be a situation about things getting sour there. I don't know what would be the issue. As on Teise in Argentina, they are showing the alligator at Toronto's training session right now. And it's very funny. No clue what's going on here. One name that came up in our South American possible players to keep an eye on, whether it's Atlanta, whether it's MLS, Thiago Almada. He is being linked with a move to Marseille, who is led by an Argentine manager, Jorge Sampaoli. That would be one that I think will happen in the summer. There's others who could be leaving Argentina, leaving other countries in South America that could be headed to MLS and other parts beyond. This summer window is going to be bonkers. Okay, As we do every week now, on Tuesdays, it is USL League One, and that is our check-in, and we'll have the USL League One block. We will have Stephen Short from the USL League office here with us in just a second. Thursday's USL Championship. We will be back after the USL League One block to take final questions on Atlanta Philly tonight, on anything else. Maybe more managers decide to step down while we're talking USL League One. We'll be ready to talk about that too if we need to. But coming up right now, it is time for the USL League One. There can be only one.
There you go. Time for SDH to dive into USL League One, and as true to our word, having the Highlander reference, there can be only one. It is USL League One, and our guest to lead things off this go round, we get to catch up with SVP Stephen Short, friend of the network. He's been with us, seeing the growth of the game here in the Southeast. And it's great to have Stephen on with us. Stephen, it's Jason and John. Thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Hope you're doing well.
So season is getting underway, and the beauty of things, it was, you gave the option for teams to get early starts, and now things are kind of getting into full song. What have been your early thoughts on the early returns so far coming into the season?
I'm extremely excited, very pleased, if I'm allowed to say pleased even. I mean, I think our teams are performing well. We're seeing some teams pick up where they left off last season already. And if we look at the 7 teams that have already played, 6 of them have already earned a point in the season. So I'm excited to see there seems to be a lot of parity, at least early in the season. And we'll see where the next 27 odd weeks take us.
Yeah, it's a hectic one, and I'm sure it's been such a challenge, like coming out of, and we're not out of it, but coming out of a year that was crazy with the pandemic, starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But just how challenging was it putting together a league format for 2021 with the teams trying to figure out what they can and can't do yet?
We actually started on it late last year. Once we start wrapping up a season, we'd like to look forward. And obviously at that point, no one really had an idea of what 21 was going to look like. So I really can't thank our teams enough for showing their flexibility and coming to the league with ideas as we were throwing ideas about there what the league could look like. Certainly we start discussing format with them, when to start. You see that this year in this flex period forward because we have some teams that want to play a little earlier. A lot of that's due to venue. But some of them may want to play a little bit later, and that could be even due to venue or municipality restrictions. So it's been flexible. I think it's been a learning experience for everyone involved. No one ever thought we'd have to deal with a pandemic in our lives, I guess. But very proud to see how our teams have pulled through it and what they want to do moving forward.
I was going to ask Stephen, what did you learn about yourselves as an entity, as the USL, going through this uncharted territory and having to learn about things on the fly and be incredibly flexible as an entity? What did you guys learn about yourselves, do you think?
I think there's a lot of hidden learnings in there, but I definitely can tell you that it was we had to learn to do it remotely as well from the league office. Most of us have been working from home for the past year as well. So you don't have that ability to sit in a room with everyone and have that conference. It all has to be done digitally, and that's global, a global learning certainly. But I think it's learned you have to continue to communicate more and be more open and continue to show or share ideas of, hey, here's what we're thinking, and to be honest with the feedback, whether teams will make it work. And certainly, like some other leagues, we have different challenges, right? With different, whether you own a stadium or if you're leasing it, or different municipality restrictions from state to state certainly has been a challenge. But we've been very open in trying to find a model that would work for all the clubs to make sure they can get back to playing. And you look at what Toronto's having to do this year, with having to play out in Arizona and then into Orlando and maybe back in Toronto. So it's not like all the problems have been solved yet, but we're continuing to work through those. And our teams, their players, their staffs, I mean, you can't thank them enough and see how hard they're working to really represent their communities and make sure that they're providing hope, maybe a light at the end of the tunnel even per se. But it's definitely been an interesting process to go through that think we'll all come away with we could all write a book maybe when this thing is done and enjoy it.
How frustrated were you last year after getting through everything, finding a way through it, having a great season with a lot of interest around the league, a lot of great stories? You get to a final and you're unable to actually have the final with Greenville and Omaha.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. You plan for that. As an event manager in leagues, but it was extremely unfortunate. I know our fans wanted to see that match. We certainly know both clubs wanted to play that match. We had that tropical storm that moved through the morning before, so it was kind of like a perfect storm that happened up there. But everyone was safe. That's at the end of the day what was important. And it's kind of interesting because it leads into this year. And our first match on linear television for League One will be that Omaha Greenville match in Greenville. So maybe that was, I can't say that was intentional by any means, but it's kind of neat that we can pick that story up and take it into this season. But again, I think it was important. Safety is our number one priority for our players, for our fans, and for their communities. And it was the right move.
And it's another step in the process, Stephen, that you're talking about with the television contract with ESPN. Obviously, every match on ESPN Plus, that's been a part of the deal ever since day one. Now you're getting that linear activity as well. Obviously, it's another big step for the league and for the process when it comes to everything and to promote what's going on in USL League One.
Linear television is always kind of that big, I wouldn't say stake in the ground, but it's a huge moment for the clubs. And ESPN Plus, having that from day one in League One, I mean, that was that in my book's a big win. It should be, because it extends our club's exposures, their brands outside their local markets, and even the international markets, which we've seen. So, you can become the second or third team of choice for someone that doesn't live in that market. If someone's in, we saw over in Cork, Ireland, when Stephen Beatty came over and played for Chattanooga, I think we may have been the most supported non-Irish club for a while. So it was exciting to see that and to see the fans jumping behind those players. And who knows where this could take us, but we'd certainly have seen the impact in the championship. It was certainly, we wanted the game on linear television last year for the final, but kudos to our teams and our internal USL team for making this happen and providing this opportunity, because I think it's going to show very well, and as well give us more opportunities down the road to show you what League One teams can do.
As you start to look ahead, I mean, when League One was announced, I think the plan was to try to get a larger number of teams than you have now. Of course, a pandemic kind of slows everything down. How far do you think you are off of that track, and what does it look like as you look a year, 2, maybe even 3 down the road for potential growth in the league?
Oh man, I could spend all day talking about this with you. So, interestingly enough, the pandemic didn't kill any of our expansion discussions.
Awesome.
There's a couple that probably were slowed down a little bit, and I think that's understandable. Yeah. But it didn't really stop any, and that's thrilling to see. And people see the value in League One. Matter of fact, I've been on the road twice in the last month to the same market as we try to get that one done. I can't tell you which one it is yet.
Well, throw that in there. You can break that news if you want, Stephen.
I could, but I like my job, and so I'd like to keep it for a little bit at least. But we're excited to see that people are excited about League One, and now we're talking with groups that are, getting that initial base in. Those are the founders of the league. That is a key component of what we wanted to do. They saw the vision, they share the vision, and they're going to continue making us better. And then you're going to have those that come in now moving forward that are building upon what's already there and what we're growing. So it's great to see the dynamic within the room and everyone wanting to learn from each other and share with each other. We're not too far off the number, which is great.
Awesome.
We're still striving to grow the league, but grow it properly. And that's with the right ownership, and, in the right markets, with the right venues, and to make sure that we can make that community impact the way that our clubs want to properly.
SVP Stephen Short, USL League One, hanging out with us here for our weekly dive into USL League One. And you've added North Carolina FC into the equation this year as one of the 12 teams that are on the board. And it's another step in the regionality that we're seeing. And the Southeastern footprint obviously has been very, very strong with USL League One out of the blocks, North Carolina FC adding to that. And we were talking about teams that are being added. You're looking at Central Valley coming in out west, Northern Colorado coming in out west to help out with the western footprint. And I think that this is part and parcel to the growth, and the keys to the growth for USL League One is getting that regional rivalry element squared away, and you're really getting that out of the blocks too.
100%. You know, that's something that we wanted to institute from day one when we looked at building the league, was really regionalized pockets, so to speak. And one, it allowed for fans to travel between markets, but also allowed us to make it as efficient as possible for the clubs. And so Central Valley being a West Coast anchor for us is huge. I'm excited to see what the Ruelas family is going to do out there. And they definitely have a strong soccer community in Fresno. So we're excited to see that. Northern Colorado Online building their venue now. You know, I was at the home opener for Colorado Springs, the Switchbacks, when they came into the championship. And you just look at it, you're like, there's a good opportunity here. Now they're in a new stadium. So we want to continue that path of growing forward. And you see a little bit of the footprint from the championship that's been laid down, like growing out west. And then you build a regional pocket out west. And then that allows us to start growing the league and ultimately getting into conferences and divisions when we get there. It never happens from day one, and that's understandable. But like I said earlier, if we build it right and intentionally, it'll allow us to do that to the best of our ability. So we're seeing some great rivalries come to fruition, and North Carolina is going to be fun to watch this year.
The biggest surprise for me about USL League One has been how high the level of play was from day one. And it doesn't feel like it's far off from the championship. I thought it would take more time for that. You know, what has been one of the things when you talk to clubs about, you know, making sure you've got a good level here as we kind of figure out what a third division level is in the United States?
It's a great question. And Jason, I would tell you that as we look through and you talk to our team ownerships and they bring in technical staffs that are well-versed, right? There are criteria. You have to have certain licenses, and they've all kind of wanted to be pro coaches if they weren't before. So they kind of have their plans in place, but their scouting is unbelievable. Yeah. They're tapped into their local markets, or they're becoming a head coach with a great network in place already. So they understand what kind of style they want to play. Obviously, you can look at Coach Harks. You can look at Coach Oblita. You can look across the league and Coach Gallus out in Tucson. They're all starting, and even Coach Sawatsky up in Richmond. They're all making changes to mold these clubs to their style of play and get the players they want. But I think we're also seeing opportunities for players that maybe didn't have that opportunity earlier on. Maybe they were didn't have the opportunity to be viewed or to move up through a system. And so we'll start to see the implementation of the USL Academy. And now we'll start seeing that higher quality player move up from the bottom too. So certainly extremely thrilled with what's happened on the field. We have no shortage of highlights in this league. That's for sure. Whether it's the goal scorers, you know, the spine of the club, or the goalkeepers just making week in, week out phenomenal saves. So I think if you look at any line on any team, there are highlights to be made and a lot of futures in the game long term.
In a normal year, when it comes to USL League One and your travel and looking at venues and prospective franchises, things like that, what's your frequent flyer mileage looking like, and your all your hotel points? I mean, how much elbow grease are you putting into this to see the league continue to grow? You
know, the exciting thing is you being there at the foundation of it, you get to see this thing start to grow and grow and grow. Now we have a team that focuses on it. We have a team of 3 or 4 internally that nonstop every day are developing markets. And you saw the movement in Spokane last week, which is exciting. So not me personally, but happy to be able to lend the weight when I can, or at least a phone call if I have to. But our team's doing a great job. We're active in over 30 markets across the country at least. Some of those a little bit further down the line than others, and some are probably at the very beginning stages. But we're excited to see that. And, you know, we'd love an official airline partner. I'm not going to lie to you about that. If anyone's listening and wants to talk, I can put you in touch with someone at the league, or a private plane maybe one day. That'd be great. But
NetJets.
Yeah, there you go. It's been exciting though, because whether you're in a rental car from market to market, or you're sitting at an airport, it really gives you a great opportunity to have some discussions with people. And so, you know, if you're on your flight home, you're sharing about what you're talking about and why you were in the market. And you can kind of start to pick other people's brains like we used to do at the bar or the ballpark. And so, you know, as long as you don't mind talking to strangers, it's a fun gig.
I'll finish with this one, Stephen. As you're starting to talk to some of those markets that are out there that might be in various stages of launching a team or thinking about it, what's one of your favorite anecdotes that you share from another team that got started as a selling point on why you should join League One?
Oh, geez. I've never been asked this question, so this is actually a really good one.
Nice.
That's a really good one. We talk a lot about those that have come before the new clubs coming in and their successes. But the one thing I think we continue to, maybe two things, that we continue to find is that there's strength in the local community connection. And if you don't do that or you don't focus on it, I'm not sure you're right for us, to be honest with you. I mean, there's so much that we've seen it in global soccer in the last, week and a half. Mm-hmm. How important the club is to the community, and I think we amplify that. You look across our league and what our teams have been able to do for social justice and opportunities and sharing messages and providing safe places to play and watch matches. We won't stop that. We have to continue doing that, and hopefully we can share that goodwill and continue to be a voice for the communities themselves. On the other side, I think you look at what story you want to tell as a community, right? So I saw a good friend of mine, Joe Wagner, posted on, was it Facebook or LinkedIn yesterday? 7 years ago was their first city soccer day in Sacramento. And it's hard to believe it was 7 years ago. And they really came in and embraced the community, built their stadium and created a great product on and off the field and really created a great fan base. I don't think maybe it was already there. They tapped into it, and a lot of people started following that suit. So we've been very fortunate as a league to have some great operators and great owners and great players and coaches come through our systems that we can talk about the successes, but also can share some things that maybe could have gone differently. So I think we learned just as much from the things that could have gone differently, that things that succeeded. Again, another book to be written, I believe, down the road, or maybe it's a 30 for 30 or a Netflix special. Netflix, come on. But I think we can, we look at those. And so we do a lot of market comparison. So if a market's a certain size or someone's looking at building a stadium that's similar to what someone else has built, we have that connection of clubs and that family, if you would, that they all want to see each other succeed. So they had no problem picking up the phone or, welcoming a prospective team owner into a match, which we'll be doing this summer, have a couple people visiting matches, to see, especially what happened in New Mexico. Oh, my goodness. Absolutely unbelievable. So it's fun to watch. I just can't wait till we can start visiting again.
Senior VP, USL League One, Stephen Short, at USL Stephen on Twitter, at USL League One, ONE on Twitter. Stephen, as always, it's great to catch up with you here at SDH as we've continued to see the growth of the league and the growth of the sport here. And it's once again great to see you. And great to catch up with you. We'll be catching up with you soon and get those miles and get those hotel points.
Well, don't forget, Friday night, we've got a championship match on ESPN2, Phoenix and San Diego at 10 o'clock Eastern. So we'll be excited to watch that one. And you can watch League One Saturday and Sunday on ESPN+.
What he said. Great promo. Way to cut the promo, Stephen. Good to see you, my friend. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a great morning.
Thanks, Stephen.
Bye.
Stephen Short. Always good to catch up with Stephen. And, I think last time that we saw him in person was at the groundbreaking of the stadium down in Statesboro with Tormenta, and seeing him as a part of that. And just once again, seeing everything getting to where USL League One is right now. You got the 12 sides going at it and the gradual rollout of the schedule. 5 teams still haven't played when it comes to what's going on right now in USL League One, but you've got a lot of teams. Really, you've got five of the teams right now with one win on the board. North Texas, Richmond, Union Omaha, who knocked off Tormenta at home this past weekend. Greenville with a win on the board in their only match. Fort Lauderdale's already played 3, Fort Lauderdale CF, and they've kind of been up and down with loss, win, loss. And Revs 2, they are 1-1 coming out of the blocks. Chattanooga FC, Tucson, Forward Madison, North Carolina FC, TFC 2 have not played yet. Tormenta is 0-2 coming out of the blocks. This week in the schedule, once again with the gradual rollout we were talking about with Stephen, you're looking at, when you look at the month of May, Saturday, it's going to be opener Legacy early with Greenville and North Texas. And you've got simultaneously 7 o'clock, you've got Tormenta and FC Tucson. FC Tucson making the long road trip from one end of the planet to the other. And then Sunday, the one match, Fort Lauderdale plays their 4th match of the year already, going up against Richmond. So that's your look at the schedule coming into this weekend.
Greenville with a huge win last week on the road in Richmond, the only road team to win last week. They get a team in North Texas come into town who had the big win 4-2 over Fort Lauderdale. That's one to absolutely keep an eye on Saturday, 7 o'clock, ESPN+. South Georgia Tormenta, it's been a disappointing start. You lost the home opener. You went out on the road and lost to Omaha. That's a tough trip. Need a win against Tucson on Saturday at 7. And then Fort Lauderdale and Richmond. Fort Lauderdale's been up and down. Richmond coming off the loss to Greenville. 2 teams that I don't know if we really know who they are yet. That's on Sunday at 7:30.
Looking at Team of the Week from this past week, and there's presence from a lot of Greenville, and there's also some Omaha in there. Familiar names, Tyler Pollock, who we've talked to in our 1v1s and Greenville Triumph Weeklies. He's on the back line along with Faraday Sosa from Omaha, Max Hemmings from Greenville, and Derek Waldick is also on there as well. Connor Doyle from Omaha in the midfield, along with Noah Pilato from Greenville, Zaka Moran from Richmond, and Thibaut Jacquel is your player of the week. And so he gets player of the week honors from North Texas. Greg Hurst and Gibran Rayo will knock out the rest of the team of the week, but Jacquel gets player of the week honors for his brace in his first match for North Texas, first half equalizer, and free kick gets the Duke for North Texas and gets Jacquel player of the week honors in League One.
We had a question on the Twitch pitch from Bernd Dursberger. Why is Tormenta struggling? It's a little hard to tell at this point in the season. I think it's too early to jump to big conclusions. I think the further down the ladder you go in terms of MLS to Championship to League One, the more pronounced some of the challenges can be when you're dealing with what you're dealing with right now. These teams started training later, so for a team like Tormenta with some new faces, it's a little bit harder to implement them. Travel is more difficult because it's not. I don't know how they traveled to Omaha exactly, and that'd be an interesting question to get answered as we go right now, is what does travel look like in League One? I don't think they're chartering flights at the moment. That's something that's beyond the budgets of these teams. So Statesboro to Omaha is not exactly an easy trip. What does that look like? How challenging is that? I think home field advantage is even more pronounced at this level for games like that. If it's Statesboro to Greenville, different conversation. Chattanooga, different conversation. You can charter a bus. It's pretty comfortable travel. It's not ideal, but it's doable. Omaha, we're having a whole different conversation. I want to see more games from Tormenta before I get there, but the Omaha trip didn't surprise me. The home loss to Fort Lauderdale surprised me. That one I didn't expect. So we keep an eye on Tormenta going forward to see what exactly is the situation there, because I don't have the answer yet. And I want more time to figure that one out because it's just a challenging year. It's good to hear from Stephen Short that teams maybe were not quite as affected as we worried about in League One. They've been able to stay on course. Smaller venues, smaller crowds, but smaller venues, smaller stands, but still the ability to spread out. I think maybe USL League One was able to get people in the building last year in bigger numbers than we would have expected. In Statesboro, they've been really forward-thinking about this to the point that I think they vaccinated almost 40 people at their home opener with their first shot. That's it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's an amazing accomplishment for a League One side to be able to do. And they've got a venue where, you can spread out really, really easily and be comfortable and attend the match, and they were able to do that last year as well. So it's cool to see that side of it. I think the question is just from a technical perspective, a preparation to play perspective. What has this been like? Has it made travel harder? Has it made those road games harder to get results? It's one of the challenges here that as we talk tactics, as we talk about recruiting players and stuff like that, just the simple logistics of getting from Statesboro, Georgia to Omaha, Nebraska, and playing a match and being competitive. It's got to be a huge challenge right now, a bigger challenge than usual.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the teams in this league, and there aren't a whole lot of major hubs. I mean, yes, Chattanooga has an international airport, but then are you going to Atlanta? Are you going to St. Louis? What's your route to get from point A to point B, especially if you have to go out west? You're looking at Dallas as a hub. Richmond can be accessible. It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of the clubs were either going through Charlotte or going through Atlanta to try to work their way to Richmond or Miami or what have you, and especially going to the Northeast. But yeah, when you look at the West and you're looking at Tucson, you're looking at Madison, Wisconsin, you're looking at stuff that's as detached as it is right now this season. I think especially, and it's going to be one of the underlying plot points of the season is the travel and the logistics involved and managing that and making sure that as a player you are as fit as you can and fit as you can be, and making sure that you can manage what's going on travel wise. I think that's going to be one of the bigger talking points of this season and something to keep an eye on going forward.
Teams that can steal points on the road are going to be the teams that reach the playoffs. Road points are going to be that much more valuable. Finishing up with the article at USLLeague1.com about 5 newcomers to watch in 2021. You mentioned 2 of them on the team of the week. Zaka Moran from Richmond, who is a product of River Plate in Argentina. Darren Sawatsky went out and brought him in. He's done really well so far. Thibaut Jaquel with North Texas. His professional debut, he was from Lionsbridge in USL League 2, was selected by FC Dallas in the Super Draft. Dallas does a really good job of not being, I think, as narrow-minded at times as somebody like Philadelphia, where Dallas produces a ton of players. They develop a ton of players to their academy. But they find diamonds in the rough outside of their academy in the college game, too. And North Texas can be a spot for that. Nicky Hernandez, a Dallas kid who was outside of the FC Dallas Academy, went to SMU. They brought him into the League One side last year, liked what they saw, drafted him to get his MLS rights, and he's on the first-team roster now. I love where Dallas doesn't just say, trade all the draft picks, we don't care about the draft. They're like, yeah, we're going to focus on the academy, and we're going to give priority to these guys. But if we find a Thibaut Jaquel and we can bring him into North Texas, let's see what we have. Let's see what we get. That's an important element for these teams. 3 players we haven't seen yet on the 5 newcomers to watch. Damian Las, who is a U.S. Youth National Team player, 19 years old, likely the starting goalkeeper for North Carolina FC. He's on loan from Fulham. Was in Chicago's academy, went to Fulham. Damian Las will be one to watch as a teenager playing significant minutes in League One. Juan Galindres, who, if you watched the Diego Maradona series at Dorados in Sinaloa, he played for him at Dorados. 26-year-old Colombian forward they call El Tanque, the tank. So he's got experience in the second division in Mexico. He's come into Chattanooga, and the Red Wolves lost some players that were big influential figures for them. Galindres is going to have to be important for them in scoring goals in League One. And the last one is Alex Knox, another one out of the D1 college side of things. He played at Wake. He played at UCLA, came out of the RSL Academy. He goes to FC Tucson, and he's a player that their manager, John Gallas, has known since he was 14 because he was part of that RSL Academy in Arizona. So Knox, a right back, likes to get forward, dynamic, energetic, technical is what John Gallas describes him as. 3 very different kind of players that we haven't seen yet in USL League One to keep an eye on. And you see all of these kinds of players coming into League One now, whether it is a teenager getting big professional experience, whether they're on loan from a foreign club or whether they're coming out of one of these academies in League One, whether it's a player coming out of college who hasn't been tested at the pro level yet, or whether it's somebody who's a seasoned pro and comes in from another country and sees League One as their jump-off point. The level of play, the overall ability across the league, far better than I expected coming into what, launching a Division III professional league would be like. It's a credit to the teams and it's a credit to their scouting networks that you're getting these kinds of guys. You muted yourself, John.
That's what I get for trying to tweet and trying to talk at the same time. That's our look at USL League One for yet another week. Catch the games when you can on ESPN Plus and linear TV.
What's the name of the series, John?
What's the name of the series?
What's the name of the show, John?
Oh, it's SDH's look at USL League One.
There can be only one!
I think we'll have you do that yell at the end of every show. I like that.
Ay, Dios mío.
There can be only one. But then I see if I did it, I'd just try to sound like Christopher Lambert from Highlander.
I'm not trying to sound like that. I'm making it my own.
There can be only
if we're
one.
We're going to reboot MacGyver. I'm going to reboot Highlander, and I'm going to be more forceful with it.
Well, I mean, when they tried the series with Adrian Paul after the movie came out back in I guess it was the mid-'90s, Lambert had a cameo in it. And because it's like, the Clan MacLeod, and you try to reorient things. And with the third Highlander movie, you violated all the rules about fights and engagements and things. It went off the rails after the second movie. It's just a bad idea after the first one. There can be only one, much like the Highlander movies. There should only be one.
Absolutely. We have a trade in Major League Soccer. We have another picture of Ali Curtis holding a bag. Toronto acquire GAM from Orlando City. $200,000 in GAM for an international roster spot. Peak MLS in the trade game. Bags of fake money going from one side to another for an international slot. So Toronto doesn't need those international slots, and Orlando did. Interesting.
Very, very nice. But and I give the social media team at Toronto FC a lot of credit because with how they've done these last two deals, where you're acquiring allocation money. You sit there, you make the big announcement, you're bringing in a player. They have the same effort in there when you're acquiring a bag of artificial dollars in your league. I give them full credit for that.
Final questions from the Twitch pitch. Final questions from Twitter. It is time to do this. So anything's fair game. I'm going to throw rapid fire stuff at y'all. If you have not seen the new leak of, I believe it's going to be a second or maybe third kit for Ajax, go get it. It is a Bob Marley inspired kit. It's awesome. Very, very cool. I think I'm actually beating Ricky Ricardo to a kit related thing. Highly, 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 highly recommended. If you don't know Ajax, their supporters, it kind of happened organically on I think it was an exhibition game in England where the song Three Little Birds was played at halftime and everybody started singing it. So it's become an Ajax anthem. And I think it's maybe a little bit of a myth that Bob Marley was an Ajax fan. I don't know if that's actually true, but the family has absolutely embraced everything going on with Ajax now. So very, very cool. And that kit's awesome. Black kit with kind of the Rasta Jamaican, red, yellow, green, black on the trim. It's awesome. It's a beautiful kit. Love it.
Yeah, I'm probably going to end up getting it and going bankrupt as well.
What's your favorite Bob Marley song, John?
Oh, see.
You don't have one, do you?
I mean, I listen to like the greatest hits and stuff.
I mean, I'm not going deep on you. Redemption song's it for me. Three Little Birds is next, but yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, Three Little Birds is in there, and there's the kid. Okay, there I finally get to see what that kid like. Love the trim. Yeah, I'm gonna get poor. I mean, for me, you look at Get Up, Stand Up. For me, that's obviously one. And No Woman, No Cry. Like I said, for me, it's the greatest hits, pretty much. All right. We talked about the John Hackworth situation. Really no updates yet as to why and what's next for him. U.S. youth national teams would make a lot of sense. We'll see if that plays out. It's just more than anything really surprised that it's like, wait, why one game in? What did something happen? Was this a plan? Were you waiting for somebody to get in place? Who's going to take over at Lou City? Like, there's a lot of questions coming out of this that I don't 100% understand. So we shall see on that side of things. What else is on Twitter? What else is on your mind that we have not gotten to yet, John?
We are officially caught up on Twitter.
Do you have anything on your mind?
You're asking me about my mind?
Yes. I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to be mean, John. I'm trying to ask you questions and get you going here. Like, give me something. Let's go.
No. But no, in catching up with Stephen Short, it was good to see, good to hear from him once again when you're looking at the growth of the league and the fact that we've been there from seeing what USL D3 was all about and the growth of it and looking forward to seeing where it continues to go from here. The one other thing that he mentioned it briefly about the downtown stadium in Spokane. Mm-hmm. And it looks like the idea there, in addition to bringing in a franchise for USL League One, is that they're looking to see about a relationship with the Spokane School District where it can be used as a facility for their events as well. And I think that with that, you would end up saving, I think, $17.5 million, I think was the number that was put out there, where if you had that as a part of the fabric of the community and did it as something that schools could use as well, I think that's going to be a fun addition to downtown Spokane if it continues to go, and then having USL League One as a part of the family atmosphere and just the growth of the sport there in Spokane. I think that was one thing that Steven left on the table that I wanted to get into.
I did not beat Ricky Ricardo to the IX kit drop. I'm very sad. He put it in the Discord last night. That's why the Discord's awesome, because it's way ahead of everything else. If you're a subscriber, if you're new and you haven't gotten your link to Discord, let us know. We'll get you taken care of. We have some new Patreon members as well. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. If you are listening and you have not gotten your link yet, please let me know. We'll get you taken care of, get you into the mix so Ricky Ricardo can drop information for you, and you can get it before we even see it, before we know anything about it. Ricky's got the kits on lock. We got all kinds of like watch-along conversations as people watch games from all over the world. We've got people who are embedded into the lower division stuff. It's awesome. It's good things. We will have trivia tomorrow, as Abby reminds us in the Twitch pitch. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, John is going to be a guest quiz master. He'll be on the other side of the game this time around. So 7 o'clock, all you got to do is make a donation to Soccer in the Streets. Whatever you can spare, you make a donation to Soccer in the Streets. You get to play in the game. You get a chance to win prizes, cash money. And it's fun. It's silly. There's lots of good trivia. You might learn something. You might remember something. You might laugh because you know something more than other people. That's fun, too.
Do we want to go ahead and tell folks what my topics are going to be, or do we want to save that?
No, you don't do that. No.
Okay.
No. That's a surprise.
Okay.
It's
a surprise.
Yes, it is a surprise. Friday at Dry County, as you see on the screen, in Lloyd Soccer and American Football Provisions. It'll be Friday. It'll be at Dry County Brewing in Kennesaw. We will have NASA Top Hat in the house. You'll hear from Dave Smith about the growth of the club. We will have the Atlanta Panthers in the house. You will hear about their inaugural season in the UWS. Friday night, same time frames that we're used to here, but Friday night in Kennesaw at Dry County, and same gimmick. If you can't make it, we will have a contest for you on Twitch, on Twitter. Just got to take a picture of the beer you're drinking, and you get bonus points in the contest, bonus entries if you're drinking in Dry County. So that is Friday. American Football Provisions, yes. They are excelente. They do good stuff. They're going to be on site. They've got some really cool new things that I've seen that I am anxious to see in person and maybe perhaps acquire. And Lloyd Soccer, for all your Atlanta United stuff, they had some great offerings at our show at Wild Heaven over a month ago. Some new stuff, and I think they did some brisk business as well. So they are back with more items for you. Abby, good luck on finding a Dry County beer in Kansas. That might be a tricky one.
Yes.
That might be a tough one. And thanks to the new followers. Okay, MLS Power rankings are out from the league. I am just going to put them out there and ask for your takes. LA Galaxy 2-0-0 are 10. Orlando, 2 draws, 9. Kansas City, a win and a draw, 8. Atlanta, a win and a draw, 7. Philadelphia, a loss and a draw, 6. And MLS, I'm going to stop there for a second, halfway through. Can we get some clarification? Are we going international standard with win, draw, loss, or are we going win, loss, draw like you've always done? Because some things are win, draw, loss, and some things are win, loss, draw. Can we pick one? Because it's really confusing. It was confusing enough when MLS was doing it differently than leagues in Europe, which I didn't mind because I'm used to win, loss, draw because that's normally how it's done in this neck of the woods. But I need consistency because I'm looking at these and I'm like, wait a minute, is that okay? No, I remember Orlando drew twice, so 0-2-0. They got 2 draws. That's in the middle now. Consistency, por favor. Number 5, Portland, a win and a loss. Number 4, New England, a win and a draw. Seattle, number 3, a win and a draw. Columbus, a draw, number 2. And LAFC, a win and a draw, number 1. Thoughts?
LAFC with a win and a draw. So you beat Austin and you drew Seattle and you're number 1.
Hold 1 second because this is not J. Sam Jones by himself doing this. I think that needs to be understood. A collection of MLS writers and voices, as I read from J. Sam's piece at MLSsoccer.com. A collection of MLS writers and voices completed the next to impossible task of ranking all 27 teams with loose criteria, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it is not just J. Sam doing this by himself. Understand that. Okay. Thoughts on it? Sorry.
No, I just, with LAFC beating a team that they should beat and then drawing Seattle, you're number 1.
No, they shouldn't be.
That's what I'm saying. I'm cocking my head sideways on that one.
No, they shouldn't be. Columbus should still be number 1. They've had 1 draw. It was a draw against Philadelphia. Columbus is number 1 until proven otherwise. LAFC is not in that category. I'm sorry. That's absurdity to me. That's 100% absurdity to me. Seattle has maybe the best win of the season over Minnesota. We'll see if that ends up being the case long term. But Seattle being number 3, they were the defending Western Conference champions. They should be ahead of LAFC. New England 1-1, number 4. It hasn't been the most impressive from them. The win over DC was meh. The draw at Chicago was pretty good. Maybe they're a little high. Portland, they have a loss and a bad one, in my opinion. I think they've got to be lower than 5. Philadelphia has a loss, potentially a bad one, to Miami. They went down 2 spots. That feels about right because they should have been higher. And I think with these power rankings, you also got to remember, like, movement takes time to fully reflect.
Yeah.
So, like the LA Galaxy, for example, they're up 5 spots to 10. They were way down low coming in.
Yeah.
So they're still moving up. I'm okay with them on the rise. Orlando's fallen 2 spots. Kansas City's even. Atlanta's went up 2 spots. That feels about right after their win. LAFC shouldn't have been number 2 to begin with.
Nope.
Because they were number 2 last week. They shouldn't have been there. They should be at best 5-6.
Yeah.
At best 5-6. You can have bigger movement, Thomas. That's absolutely true. But LAFC should not be number 1. That blows me away. Columbus should be furious. Seattle should be furious. Philadelphia should argue. Kansas City should argue. LA Galaxy should argue. LAFC, they're not 100% yet. I mean, they didn't have Vela. They didn't have Rossi. So it's not a knock. It's just they're not the best team in the league right now.
No.
And I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get the infatuation. I don't understand propping them up so much. Because, man, I'll tell you how it felt the other way around. When Atlanta had issues in 2019, which weren't even that big of an issue because they were the third best team in the league at the end of the regular season, and they reached the Eastern Conference Final, people nationally were looking for shots to take. There was no propping up of anything. LAFC is being propped up. The year they had last year, the questions they have coming in, they got rid of their starting goalkeeper the day before the season started.
Yep.
That's not a number one team in the league. And Pablo Cisniega is not a number one goalkeeper for a number one team in the league. They're not good enough defensively. They're not 100% yet, so we don't even know what they are. They're not better than Columbus. They're not better than Seattle. I don't think they're better than New England. I don't think they're better than Philadelphia. I don't think so far they're better than Kansas City or the LA Galaxy. You want to argue about Portland, you want to argue about Atlanta, you want to argue about Orlando, that's fine. They're top 10, but they're not number one. They're not top half of the top 10 for me.
Yeah, with your sentence by sentence case, that's a 6 or a 7. That's not a number one.
They're 6 or 7. That's where it feels like they should be. You want to put them ahead of Atlanta? That's fine. You want to put them at 6? That's fine. My power rankings from what I've seen and coming into the year where they would be and how the adjustments would go, it's Columbus 1 still. It's Seattle 2. I'll throw the LA Galaxy all the way up into 3 because you got a win in Miami where you had to fight for it. You had to fight for a win at home against the Red Bulls. You got 2 wins. You got the biggest goal scorer in the league right now. You're number 3 with a bullet.
Mm-hmm.
You are climbing up the ranks. Now, you might fall down the ranks really fast, but I'm sorry.
Right now,
that deserves to be higher up than LAFC right now. Columbus 1, Seattle 2, Galaxy 3.
Okay.
I'll go Kansas City 4. I will go New England 5. I'll go Philadelphia 6. I'll go LAFC 7 and Atlanta 8. That's fine. I think the Galaxy's early season performance gets them higher up.
Yes. I mean, for me, I would probably flip Philadelphia and New England just because, the idea of beating DC, which is still trying to figure themselves out.
Philadelphia lost to Miami. They can't be ahead of New England.
That's true.
They can't. Philadelphia can't be ahead of any of them. I don't even know if I can put them ahead of an Atlanta. Orlando doesn't have a win yet, but that loss to Miami is a little eye opening at home. I'm even feeling like they may be there 8 and Atlanta 7, but any which way, Philadelphia, if you want to give them credit for last season, a good performance in CONCACAF, and the injuries they're dealing with, at 7-8, those two are very even. That's why this CONCACAF series will be really compelling.
Yep. All right. Nope, I'm with you. For me, LAFC at 1 is turning of the head sideways, cocking of the people's eyebrow, and you sit there and you go, quoting you, okay? Just no. Not at number 1. No, sir.
Yeah, I don't get it. Not a fan. Not a fan. It really feels different. Thomas Jawin says Atlanta's bad year, excluding 2020, the pandemic nuttiness, which was really a bad year. The bad year was finishing 3rd in the Supporters' Shield, 58 points. The league's official outlet was looking for every chance possible to knock the team. They were. And look, I mean, it was happening locally, too. It's not just the national. There was no propping up like we're seeing of LAFC right now. And they're a win and a draw. They're not bad. But they've got to climb back from where they were last year, where they had injury issues. They had problems. They're not better than Columbus at all. That's the one that if you're Caleb Porter, I would put that thing on the wall.
Yep.
Have it up there every day and say they don't respect you. Columbus is the best team in the league. They're the defending champs. Absolutely.
I mean, the goalkeeping issues with LAFC, the back line with LAFC, and it's just no. That to me becomes absolute bulletin board material. You hang it in every player's locker, and you make sure that it's super glued to the back so they can't pull it down.
Thomas Jawin says there was a lot of propping up of TFC in 2018 when they really struggled. I'll give that because of the injuries, because there was a reason for the struggle. The thing about LAFC is they've got a supporter shield and they got knocked out in the postseason by Seattle at home in 2019. At home, they lost that game. And, yeah, Atlanta lost to Toronto. Same thing. Atlanta's not in this conversation. LAFC is. 2020, LAFC had injuries. They weren't all that great. They're healthy now, kind of, but not really. We haven't seen Rossi. We haven't seen Vela for very much. So, Thomas, they weren't a very good team that year for sure. Toronto wasn't a very good team that year because of the injuries. They were the same team as they were the last year. But when you're playing Bradley as a center back, when you're mixing and matching with that group, that affected it. I think the CONCACAF run affected it. There was propping up, yes, but I think there was a more valid excuse for why they were struggling. Anyway, that's Toronto, and now I guess we're going to go after Toronto again and come after me because I defended Toronto for once or twice or so. It happens. I know. The Gators coming back. That's all I know. That Gators coming back on training. Coming back to the practice. We're all in trouble now. I think that is it. Haven't seen anything else pop up big about RB Leipzig. There's some folks saying that Jesse Marsch might not be the guy. Might not be the guy at Leipzig. They might go in a different direction. Stay tuned. UEFA has announced a revamped Women's Champions League. Redistribute 24 million euro to women's football across Europe, more than 4 times greater than the current figure. Very good. Keep doing it, UEFA, and maybe you won't have people try to break away from you and do their own thing. Continue to do the right things, UEFA. Let's be better. You got the talk about getting propped up. UEFA got the babyface turn because of the heel turn from the Super League. Now they got to do something with it. Now's the time to do the right things, and that is absolutely true. Thomas, everybody's going to go at TFC now. It's just how it goes around here. The most hated club that I didn't even know was hated as much as they're hated. They're hated. In Atlanta, they are anyway. Orlando City sold out their next 3 matches. That's another little headline for you. I don't know if that means they've expanded their amount of people in the building yet. Let me see. No individual game tickets available for their 3 May matches. Reduced capacity for these, so they haven't expanded it yet. I don't know if they expanded it from what it was day one, but it's not full capacity yet. Be really curious to see which team goes full capacity first. I mean, it's coming. Like, you know, it's going to happen as people get vaccinated. As there could be some different advice from the CDC today about masks outside. Like, there's a lot of things that are kind of bubbling in that direction. Who's going to do it first, and is it going to be too soon, or is it going to feel like the right time? None of us really know, but there will be yelling and stomping of feet. There will 100% be that. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Be smart. You're going to go to the game tonight. The number's out there if you need to send a text, if people are not following protocols, but look out for yourself more than anything. You know it's a risk because you know people might do that. It's not a risk if you're vaccinated. It shouldn't be. We know the information that's out there, but you know, as you would be at any large event, there are people around you that you can't control. That's just how it is at a concert. I learned that very early going to concerts. I'm on the floor in a general admission show. I know who's to my left. I know who's to my right. I know who's in front of me. I know who's behind me. I see that sketchy drunk guy trying to push his way up through the crowd. I know to make sure my people are good. You just have to know what's around you. Tonight, yeah, if you're going to go, you got to know what's around you. Be careful, be smart, follow the protocols, enjoy the game, make some noise, be loud for this team because they're going to need it. It is a tough challenge against Philadelphia tonight for Atlanta United. We will have a pregame stoppage time, facebook.com/929thegame. Mike Conti and I. Around 7 o'clock, the lineup will be in around 7 o'clock, so we'll go live maybe a little bit before that. But we'll talk about the lineup. We'll talk about what it could look like as we did earlier in the show, as we did on the run-up last night. We'll talk about what the 11 names on the sheet could mean in how it looks on the field. We'll jump into that. We will have a watch-along here on the SDH Twitch. Again, it's not a substitute for... it's not a radio call. It's not like that. You're going to need to have the game on to know what's going on. But we'll talk about players who are showing out, things that could change. We'll talk a lot about those shapes and what it looks like. We'll dig into that, and we'll have a post-game show as well, more than likely here on Twitch, and will be available on our app, and we'll take your questions throughout that. There will be a salty takeaway as well with John and Jared and Nick breaking down everything from their perspectives. So be ready for that later in the evening tonight. Thanks for being part of it today. Thanks to Stephen Short for taking some time for us. Thank you to Dylan Butler for taking some time for us. If you're going to the match tonight, rest up, save that voice for the rest of the day, and then yell your head off for Atlanta United against Philadelphia tonight. We'll be back tomorrow to break everything down. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.